Chapter 656. It was just the first dish of fried rice, which had an incomparably refreshing and sweet taste, but it actually moved Elder Ji Xing in a way that he hadn't felt in a long time. Sure enough, was this what a mother tasted like? Elder Ji Xing suddenly felt his nose sting a little. His mother had died very early and left when he was very young. Growing up, Elder Ji Xing had never felt a mother's love, and in that moment, tears actually welled up in his eyes as an inexplicable echo rang out in his heart. What is filial piety? What is love? What is maternal love? And most importantly, Elder Ji Xing couldn't help looking up at the sky. This fried rice reminded him of his mother in the depths of his memories. Who knew if his mother was doing well on the other side of the heavenly state? Why was he looking up at the sky? It was to hold back the tears that were on the verge of flowing out of his eyes. At this thought, Elder Ji Xing felt a little ashamed. He had cultivated hard for many years and had a profound realm, so he thought that he wouldn't be shaken by anything. But in that moment, he was actually forced to almost cry by a golden core kitchen lady's fried rice. It was actually quite embarrassing to say this out loud, so Elder Ji Xing could only bear with it. After he calmed down, Elder Ji Xing looked at the 9 uneaten dishes and was suddenly a little afraid. He was afraid that if he ate one dish, he would feel the urge to cry. What would happen then? He wanted to refuse, but before he could open his mouth, Mother One had already placed her hand on the cover of the second dish and directly lifted it off. It was still accompanied by a strong light, which was no weaker than the first one. Mother One showed off her second dish, Heavenly Silkworm Potato Strips 2.0. Because heavenly silkworm potato strips often caused insomnia and blocked spirit energy after eating version 1.0, Mother One had improved the cooking method of the heavenly silkworm potato strips on this basis to introduce the current version 2.0. In fact, all the dishes tasted here were version 2.0, including the first dish, Fan Bing Bing. In version 1.0, these new dishes would more or less cause different side effects after eating them. For example, Fan Bing Bing's fried rice would cause diarrhea. But now that version 2.0 had been introduced, Mother One was actually very confident that in theory, these dishes wouldn't have any side effects. In theory. In fact, Mother Wan's suspicions were confirmed. After eating Fan Bing Bing, not only did this beautiful female parent not feel the slightest pain, but she also didn't collapse. Most importantly, this parent actually revealed a touched expression on her face. It could only be said that the improved version 2.0 Fan Bing Bing was very successful. Mother One was very excited. She eagerly hoped that this fated parent would try all the new version 2.0 dishes she had developed. For this heavenly silkworm potato shredded, I've been very careful from the beginning of the selection process. I won't choose a potato that's too big or too small. It has to be a proper potato. And have you noticed? Every shredded potato of mine was cut perfectly, with the same length and thickness. In order to ensure the freshest texture, it took me a long time just to cut the shredded potato. Quick, give it a try and see how my cooking is. Elder Ji Xing realized that he already had no room to refuse. This was the heavenly silkworm potato shredded which the other party had painstakingly cut. Even if the heavenly silkworm potato shredded was a drag on the updates, it wasn't her fault as she was such an ethical cook. The other party had worked so hard to cut the heavenly silkworm potato shredded, but he didn't even try it. How shameless was that? Thus, Elder Ji Xing picked up a piece with his chopsticks and put it in his mouth with great emotion. He sighed in his heart. He didn't know if it was because he had eaten the first Fan Bing Bing, but it had fueled his nostalgia for his mother. And it was precisely this hint of emotion that made Elder Ji Xing realize that his sympathy had instantly burst out like a waterfall. Not only did this golden core cook have his mother's taste in her cooking, unconsciously, Elder Ji Xing felt that Mother Wan's words had a mother's tone, and he couldn't refuse her. As expected, this heavenly silkworm potato shredded with his chopsticks caused Elder Ji Xing's eyes to well up with tears again. The stir-fried shredded potatoes were simply too good. Not only was it very delicate, it was also crispy and extremely refreshing, like a home-cooked meal from his childhood. This time, Elder Ji Xing wasn't just thinking of his mother, he was also thinking of his grandmother. It was as if his grandmother had cooked this potato shredded for him. Elder Ji Xing remembered that not long after his mother's death when he was very young, his grandmother had taken care of him for a period of time, but less than a year later, she had also passed away. Thinking about it, Elder Ji Xing instantly felt even sadder. When he was young, a fortune teller had said that he was the bane of his existence, and that he would be the bane of all the people close to him. In the end, they had really left him one by one. Actually, this was one of the main reasons why Elder Ji Xing had now embarked on the evil path of the Demon Hunters Association. When his family had left him one by one, he had truly felt like he had been abandoned by the world. Thus, he had started to cultivate hard and had immersed himself in the study of refining weapons, until he had met President Bai. The past was still vivid in his mind. Elder Ji Xing ate the fan bing bing and the potato shredded. Little by little, like an old movie, he finished the 2 dishes in his mind. Mother Wan was pleasantly surprised at this scene. This parent had actually finished the food. And after eating the fan bing bing and the heavenly silkworm potato shredded, she actually hadn't collapsed yet. It seemed that her research on her dishes had really been successful. Mother Wan actually hadn't wanted the parent to finish all of her dishes. Although this parent had been very strong and hadn't collapsed after the first bite, Mother Wan couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be any risks if she ate the entire dish. In theory, she could guarantee that there wouldn't be any after effects after the first bite, but that was only limited to the first bite. But this female parent had actually finished it all in a very intoxicated manner, and didn't even look the least bit hurt. Her research on her dishes had really been successful. At that moment, Mother Wan's heart couldn't help trembling a little. She had been studying these dishes for so long. Could they finally be released now? However, just as Mother Wan was feeling overjoyed, Elder Ji Xing's eyes suddenly widened. He felt his vision suddenly blur, and with a plop, he fell head first into the plate in front of him. Chapter 657. Mother Wan's heart suddenly tightened. After sensing for a while, she discovered that this female parent was still breathing, and instantly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that this parent had just fainted. After all, this female parent had eaten 2 of her dishes, and most importantly, she had finished them. But the side effect of fainting wasn't with the fan bing bing and the heavenly silkworm potato strips. Mother Wan felt that it was a little strange. Logically speaking, only the 3rd dish, holy shit tomato, could cause this sort of instant fainting. But after the improvements in version 2.0, Mother Wan was still very confident that just 1 mouthful would definitely be fine. She just couldn't eat more. Staring at the female parent who had collapsed on the table, Mother Wan sighed and then took out a bottle of emerald green pills which she had prepared herself. This pill was called the empty stomach cleansing pill. As long as one was eaten, it could instantly dissolve everything in the stomach, including the toxins in the body. Of course, this was an emergency medicine, and would only take effect within 3 minutes of eating something wrong. If you ate it too late, you would have to be sent to the hospital for manual gastric lavage. Mother Wan poured out 1 pill and wanted to feed it to Elder Ji Xing, but just as she stretched out her hand, Elder Ji Xing's head suddenly moved and he stood up on his own. Mother Wan, Elder Ji Xing opened his eyes hazily with a dazed expression on his face. He rubbed his eyes and felt a little dizzy. But very quickly, this symptom disappeared, and was replaced by a head full of fog. He remembered that he had been about to eat the next dish, but why didn't he have any memory of the previous 2 dishes? Seeing Elder Ji Xing's dazed expression, Mother Wan immediately had an idea. From this female parent's blank expression, she guessed that the other party might have lost her memory, but the problem was that the side effect of memory loss wasn't from these 2 dishes. Could it be a combination of toxins? Mother Wan thought of a theory. Because no one had ever been able to eat 2 new dishes in a row. Now, this female parent had eaten 2 dishes in one go, and had even eaten them clean. After the toxins from the two new dishes had been combined, a brand new side effect was formed, and the side effect of the fan bing bing and the heavenly silkworm potato strips was fainting and temporary amnesia. After thinking it over, Mother Wan felt that this was the only reasonable explanation. Even she didn't expect that there would be such an operation. However, from the current reaction of the female parent, it was just fainting and intermittent amnesia. She was still alive. Thus, Mother Wan smiled kindly at Elder Ji Xing again. Parent, the food tasting has officially begun. Please taste the first dish, holy shit tomato. As soon as she said this, Mother Wan directly lifted the third lid. Elder Ji Xing. Wait. The food tasting has just begun. Then why were there 2 empty plates before the third dish? Mother Wan gave Elder Ji Xing a brand new pair of chopsticks. Parent, these are your chopsticks. The first 2 dishes had already been eaten by other parents. Because they were too delicious, they finished them all. You came at the right time. Elder Ji Xing, are there any other parents? Mother Wan smiled. Yes. But she had already finished eating and went back. I still have other things to do later, so I'll need you to appraise the remaining dishes. Elder Ji Xing was stupefied. Was that so? Before Elder Ji Xing could think about it carefully, Mother Wan had already started to introduce the third dish. Holy shit tomato version 2.0. Not only had the tomato ingredients been further improved, but even the white granulated sugar of this dish had been upgraded. This wasn't ordinary white sugar, but the Qin family's sugar, which was produced in abundance in Jiangzhou City, formerly Guangling Prefecture City, which was known as the ancient capital. Each caddy was sold in immortal gold. Don't look at my tomato salad. These aren't ordinary tomatoes, and I was very careful when I picked them out. This sugar is from the Qin family in Jiangzhou City, which I bought with my retirement salary. I added a total of 3 spoonfuls to this tomato salad. Hurry up and try it to see how my cooking is. Elder Ji Xing realized that he already didn't have any leeway to refuse. This was the famous Qin family's sugar which he had spent a lot of money to buy. This was a famous seasoning. Furthermore, he had come all the way here, but hadn't even tried a single dish. Even if his initial goal had been to sneak into number 60 high to scout the place, since he had come in under a disguise, he had to put on a good show. He absolutely couldn't arouse this kitchen lady's suspicion. And most importantly, this was a dish that the other party had painstakingly made. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if he didn't even try it? It hadn't been easy for the old lady to make these dishes. How could he waste her good intentions? Thus, Elder Ji Xing picked up a tomato salad covered in sugar and put it in his mouth. This was, in a flash, tears welled up in Elder Ji Xing's eyes. This tomato salad was simply too good. The sourness of the tomato combined with the sweetness of the Qin family's sugar perfectly blended the 2 flavors together, and he was extremely moved. This time, Elder Ji Xing thought of his grandfather. His grandfather had taken care of him after his grandmother had passed away, and was best at making salad. Unfortunately, not long after his grandfather had taken care of him, he had gone to look for his grandmother. Elder Ji Xing couldn't help sighing in his heart. This tomato salad was filled with the flavor of his grandfather whom he missed so much. When he came back to his senses, Elder Ji Xing realized that this tomato salad had already been swept clean by him. Elder Ji Xing wiped the tears from his eyes. When he came back to his senses, he saw that the kitchen lady, who had originally had a kind gaze, was now staring at him with eyes as wide as bronze bells. It was as if she was looking at a lab rat. But when Elder Ji Xing rubbed his eyes, he saw that the kitchen lady's expression had changed back to a kind one with a slight smile on her face. Was this an illusion? In fact, it wasn't Elder Ji Xing's illusion just now, but Mother Wan observing his reaction. She actually wasn't sure if there would be any new side effects. A few seconds later, Mother Wan saw Elder Ji Xing plunge headfirst into the third plate. Mother Wan, it seemed that the side effects of fainting and amnesia from the first 2 dishes hadn't completely disappeared. After eating the third dish, the side effects of the first two dishes had been refreshed and intensified. This time, Mother Wan didn't feed him the medicine, but waited quietly. After a few seconds, Elder Ji Xing woke up as Mother Wan had expected. Chapter 658. This time, Mother Wan had prepared a total of 10 dishes, and Elder Ji Xing had been tricked into finishing the 9th dish under Mother Wan's persuasion. Then, he nodded and plunged into the 9th empty plate in front of him. For some reason, Mother Wan's conscience ached a little. There was still one last dish left. This wasn't an ordinary fried meatball, but it was a truly new dish that Mother Wan had come up with recently, because no one had tried version 1.0 of this dish before. It was made from a kind of spirit silkworm chrysalis, and one had to choose one that had just formed a chrysalis for half a month to ensure the freshness of the ingredient. The specific cooking method was very simple. After picking out the spirit silkworm chrysalis, wash them, and dice them up, mix them with dragon pork and the crispy bones of a spirit chicken according to the ratio. Add in fresh eggs and corn flour, roll them into a ball, add in seasoning, and finally fry them at high temperatures. The crispness of the crispy bones and the unique chewiness of dragon pork ensured the elasticity of the meatball. After being fried at high temperatures, the diced spirit silkworm chrysalis would melt into a liquid like egg yolk cheese. When bitten down, it would explode. Mother Wan felt that this idea of hers was very genius. However, she had only put the fried meatballs in the fridge the last time, and had planned to have someone try them the next day. In the end, the next day, all the fresh food in the fridge had actually rotted, thus, Mother Wan hadn't taken this fried meatball out for anyone to try. However, she had given it a very nice name, Crispy Chrysalis Balls. Now, Crispy Chrysalis Balls had already reached version 2.0 after Mother Wan's own modifications. The crispy chrysalis balls now wouldn't cause the food around them to rot or go bad, but it was really hard for Mother Wan to imagine what kind of adverse reaction this female parent, who had already eaten 9 of her dishes in a row and was still suffering from amnesia, would have when she ate this last fried meatball. Mother Wan's conscience ached a little. After all, she had never tested this crispy chrysalis balls before. What would happen if there was an adverse reaction when it was put together with another dish she had eaten before? So in order to prevent this from happening, Mother Wan almost subconsciously decided to put away the last dish before the female parent woke up. Unfortunately, she was still one step too late. Just as Mother Wan was about to put away the plates, this female parent suddenly stretched out her hand and tightly grabbed her wrist. Mother Wan then saw this parent raise her head with an intoxicated expression as she stared at her and muttered, "The food tasting begins now." Mother Wan was startled. Holy shit! This parent's head had been damaged from eating. Furthermore, she felt that this parent was a little too strong. Mother Wan gripped her wrist tightly and wouldn't let go. No wonder this parent was fine after eating so many dishes. It turned that her realm wasn't low. On the contrary, he was a little disappointed at the moment because in this way, the effect was not that great. If this parent's realm was very high, he might be able to resist the side effects of his trial dishes purely with the quality of his body. In that moment, Mother Wan sighed abruptly. It looked like she still had a long way to go on the path of culinary research. Mother Wan sighed deeply when she saw this female parent staring fixedly at her 10th dish with an expression as if she had been toyed with. "Parent, calm down, our food tasting event is already over. Look, all the parents from before have already left." Elder Ji Xing looked around in a daze, and his consciousness seemed to have cleared up a little. He looked at the 9 empty plates and the 9 pairs of chopsticks next to him. It turned out that there had been other parents who had been here for the food tasting. Elder Ji Xing shook his head and then rubbed his temples. He was really too muddle-headed. He didn't even remember this sort of thing. Disguising oneself was also a compulsory course for a ninja. As an overseas cultivator who had returned from Sun Island to study, Elder Ji Xing felt a little ashamed at that moment. He had actually made such a rudimentary mistake while hiding in enemy lines. Sorry. Elder Ji Xing let go of her. My good intentions were a little muddled. But Elder Ji Xing was actually a little puzzled in his heart. For some reason, he felt like he was forgetting something. It's fine, parent. Mother Wan gazed kindly at the female parent and just wanted to urge her to leave as soon as possible. The 10th dish is our freebie. I'll help you pack it up and take it back. The parents from before have already brought some back. Is that so? All right. In order not to be exposed, Elder Ji Xing could only go along with Mother Wan's words and agree. The truth was that at that moment, even Mother Wan herself was extremely nervous. She was a little worried that this female parent would notice something. But in fact, she was worrying too much. Mother Wan had underestimated the amnesia side effect of her previous dishes. The reason why Mother Wan wanted the female parent to pack up this fried meatball to take away was in fact a delaying tactic. Mother Wan thought that this female parent's realm was so high that she would probably be able to digest all the food she had eaten on the way home. If that was the case, she wouldn't have to worry about any side effects from eating this crispy chrysalis ball. And so, 10 minutes later, Old Li and Mother Wan stood at the entrance of number 60 High School on Qingyun Road, sending the bewildered Elder Ji Xing off with kind expressions on their faces. Mother Wan, take care, female parent. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend my food tasting. You're welcome to come again. Elder Ji Xing, it had to be said that this had been a very vague and confusing experience for Elder Ji Xing. He somehow felt that he had forgotten something from the moment he stepped into the school, and he should have been here to scout things out. In the end, he had been led by the nose by the school kitchen lady and the school guard, who were now sending him off rather politely. Elder Ji Xing really didn't know what kind of expression he should wear. In his days, Elder Ji Xing now seemed to understand the Lord of Mo Immortal Castle's repeated warnings. Don't go near number 60 high. Don't go near number 60 high. Don't go near number 60 high. Now that Elder Ji Xing thought about it carefully, he felt that there might really be a problem with this school. Elder Ji Xing looked helplessly at the takeaway box in his hand and sighed deeply in his heart. He raised his fingers and caught a transparent poisonous needle flying toward him in the dark between his fingertips. Elder Ji Xing didn't even bother to look, and just quietly said, "Come out, Nank sauce." There was a movement in the bushes behind them, and a child in ghillie garb emerged from the bushes. It was a young boy about 10 years old. He looked a little black-bellied and had a puzzled expression on his face. As expected of Sanako. When did you discover me? Nanko frowned and asked. I noticed you before we entered the forest. Your ability to hide your aura is getting better and better. Outsiders definitely won't be able to find you, but I can, Elder Ji Xing replied. Although this Xingtai looked like he was only 10 years old and even his voice was that of a child, in fact, his cultivation was already very profound. This wasn't a deliberate disguise, nor was it some kind of magic transformation. Instead, it was caused by a highly poisonous fruit which he had inadvertently eaten when he was young. It had caused his body to shrink and he was unable to grow up again, just like a living Mount Heaven maiden. Although he looked like a child, during his time on Sun Island, this Nanka's overall grades had been among the best in his class. His most common trick was this transparent poisonous needle called the half-step smiling needle, which he had just caught. After being hit by it, the victim would laugh wildly several times before collapsing as if they were drunk. Furthermore, this needle was so poisonous that it was effective even on itinerant immortals. Nank sauce, nice to meet you. Looking at this Xingtai, Elder Ji Xing raised an eyebrow. Didn't Maoli-chan come with you? The Maoli-chan that Elder Ji Xing was talking about was in fact this Xingtai's partner. The two of them often appeared as father and son in gray to carry out all kinds of infiltration work, and were practically inseparable. Working together over the years on Sun Island, Maoli-chan had already been successfully packaged as a famous detective and was active in every corner of Sun Island. Furthermore, after this father and son duo assassinated their targets, they would often use their reasoning skills to frame innocent people. It could be said that their cover was truly flawless. No one would believe that Maoli-chan's true identity was actually a member of the Demon Hunters Association who cultivated both ninjutsu and ninjutsu. Maoli has something to do and can't come, Nanko replied, then walked in the direction of the tent. He has a family on Sun Island. Sanako should know about this, right? Nank replied, then walked towards the tent. Of course I know. Elder Ji Xing nodded. In order to better conceal his identity, this Mr. Mowgli had already started a family and business on Sun Island. He disguised himself as a local resident and even opened a business office. This was already no longer a secret in the Demon Hunters Association, and the members who had been sent to Sun Island for research back then all knew about it. Mowgli Chan's daughter is about to take the college entrance examination, so I'm taking part in this operation, Nanko replied. Daughter is going to take the college entrance examination. Elder Ji Xing was blank at this answer. Is Mowgli Chan's studies that outstanding? The truth was that it was all thanks to this Nanko that Mowgli Chan had been able to become a famous detective all these years. As a living, heavenly mountain Tong Lao, Nanko had a very high IQ. Of course he's not good at studying. But he can help his daughter eliminate the wrong answers, Nanko said. Elder Ji Xing, after entering the military tent, Elder Ji Xing saw that the group of Demon Hunters Association cultivators who had been studying on Sun Island back then were almost all in place. Lord Sanako. Hello, Lord Sanako. When Elder Ji Xing walked in, a lot of people greeted him. Elder Ji Xing looked at the table, which was filled with more than 10 bottles of watermelon juice. It actually wasn't strange that there was juice, since there was an orchard in this mountain forest to begin with. After returning from number 60 high, Elder Ji Xing's throat had been feeling a little uncomfortable. The moment he saw the watermelon juice, his eyes instantly lit up. Who prepared the juice? Very considerate. Elder Ji Xing praised, then narrowed his eyes. Chapter 660. After drinking this mouthful of juice, the burning sensation in his throat seemed to ease a little. But what puzzled Elder Ji Xing was that this juice didn't taste sweet, but rather had a very strange taste. Perhaps it wasn't watermelon juice, but some other spirit fruit. Elder Ji Xing smacked his lips and felt that the juice was a little sticky. Although it wasn't very refreshing, it did moisturize his throat. What kind of spirit fruit is this juice from? Elder Ji Xing raised his head to ask, and realized that it was silent all around him. No one answered. He did a head count in passing, and felt that 2 people were missing. Brother Mingren and Brother Yaren aren't here. There was silence all around. Elder Ji Xing, can someone give me an explanation? Whether it was Mingren or Yaren, they were both very powerful members. Mingren had inherited the blood essence of the 9-tailed demon fox, and when he was young, he had been unable to suppress the demon fox's irascibility, which had led to disasters several times. But during his time studying on Sun Island, Brother Mingren had cultivated diligently and successfully mastered the technique of suppressing the demon fox's aura. Now, in battle, he could freely use this power to fight. If he had this power when attacking number 60 high, when Mingren summoned the demon fox, he would definitely be able to deal a heavy blow to the spirits of all the teachers and students in the school. There was even less to say about Brother Yaren, who was born with an immortal body, just like President Bai. But the difference was that President Bai's immortal body had been cultivated, and his immortal body could become stronger and stronger as he cultivated it. Although Brother Yaren was born with an immortal body, and it would take some time for him to come back to life, it was still immortal. Because they still didn't know how strong the overall combat strength of that mysterious youngster from number 60 high was, Elder Ji Xing had called Elder Yaren over from Sun Island this time. In reply to Lord Sanako, a member called Zhu replied, "There's a problem with the demon fox in Brother Mingren's body." How could that be? Elder Ji Xing was startled. This 9-tailed demon fox has been cooped up on Sun Island for too long. When it came to Huaxiao Nation this time, it asked Brother Mingren to take it for an ion perm and trim its fur. Then, what happened next? The demonic fox asked the hairdresser to trim it a little. In the end, the hairdresser shaved off all 9 of its tails. It is now in a state of isolation. Currently, Brother Mingren is taking demonic fox for emergency psychological treatment. Elder Ji Xing hadn't expected this kind of blunder at all. He hurriedly picked up the red spirit fruit juice in front of him and took a big gulp to suppress his shock. Then, what happened to Brother Yaren? The scope of the immortal body's ability was too vast, so Elder Ji Xing guessed that Brother Erju was probably referring to the ability that extended from the immortal body. As a good friend of Elder Yaren's for many years, Elder Ji Xing knew Elder Yaren's ability like the back of his hand. Thus, Elder Ji Xing immediately thought of a common spell that Elder Yaren had told him about before, which was derived from the great ability of an immortal body, the body transformation spell. This was a spell that could divide a person's body into several viscous slime pieces when they suffered a fatal blow. In the end, they would come back together bit by bit to reconstruct the body and resurrect. Seeing Elder Ji Xing's pensive expression, this brother called Erju also said faintly, Elder Yaren's body transformation technique has already reached the pinnacle. It's not just the ability to divide his body into pieces. Then, could it be that Elder Yaren's cultivation has gone berserk? No. Erju shook his head. Elder Yaren is already adept at dividing his body into powder instead of just pieces of flesh. Elder Yaren wanted to break himself down before you arrived, Sanako, and then reassemble himself when you showed up. So, Yaren is here? Yes. Where is he? Chapter 661. The body transformation spell. The immortal body was one of the profound abilities of the body, which could automatically divide the body into equal parts. The higher a person's realm was, the more parts they could divide into. Once they cultivated the ultimate profound ability, they could completely divide their body into a liquid state. Yaren had wanted to give Elder Ji Xing a surprise, but unfortunately, as soon as Elder Ji Xing entered the tent, Elder Ji Xing drank a part of his body. No matter what part it was a very uncomfortable ending. Furthermore, because he had lost a part of his body, Elder Yaren's recovery time was much faster than before. It wasn't until the next morning that Elder Yaren completely recovered from his liquid state. But the most miserable person was still Elder Ji Xing. Elder Ji Xing threw up all night, and even the makeup on his face was ruined by his vomiting. Considering the lack of manpower in the team and the fact that Elder Ji Xing wasn't in a good state, Elder Ji Xing had no choice but to drop the plan for the time being. The revenge plan, which had originally been scheduled for July 24th on Monday in the 14th week of the semester, had to be postponed for a day. This was a slightly sorrowful attack plan, and this bumpy attack was in fact still going on. It was July 24th on Monday in the 14th week of the semester. When he got up in the morning, Wang Ling's eyelids finally stopped twitching. It seemed like it had been a very, very long time since his eyelid twitched as a warning. It was a sign that something bad was going to happen to him in the near future. The truth was that his eyelids had started twitching in the wee hours of the morning, and had been twitching for a whole 5 hours. Disaster level, 4 stars. This was probably one of the most serious warnings Wang Ling had received since he was a child. The last time he had received a 5-star warning was when he had been 10 years old, when Loopy Toad had fallen from the sky on his way to buy crispy noodle snacks. That scene from 6 years ago was still vivid in Wang Ling's mind. A 5-star warning was a city-level disaster. A 4-star warning, Wang Ling pondered it, and the first thing he thought of was the school. Number 60 High might be in danger. It actually wasn't strange for him to make this guess. On one hand, President Bai was still at large to this day. On the other hand, Wang Ling guessed that Ah Zhua, who had been in the limelight recently and had served as the commander of one case after another, was very likely to become the new target of the Demon Hunters Association's retaliation now that they couldn't find Loopy Toad and their revenge on Little Silver had failed. It was just that given how dangerous the people from the Demon Hunters Association were, dealing with Ah Zhua alone was a little too small of a scale. If they could take revenge on this Director Zhua's alma mater, it would definitely inflict even greater psychological trauma on Ah Zhua. Thus, when his eyelid warned him this time, he almost immediately thought of number 60 High and Ah Zhua. Whether it was the school or this disciple of his, he felt that he had to protect both. What a joke. Number 60 High's first semester final exam was just around the corner. For number 60 High to mess up at this critical juncture, they were always late for exams, but never absent. The truth was that Wang Ling had already started to prepare for the final exam. Given number 60 High's teacher's nature, if the exam was postponed, there was an 80% chance that they would change the type of exam questions, and his revision would be for naught. He had spent a lot of time just analyzing the questions these few days. I absolutely can't let anyone ruin the sacred final exam. Wang Ling was exceptionally resolute in his heart. Considering that Audrey might be in danger, Wang Ling's thoughts stirred. Next to the bed, Jinka turned into a streak of brown light with a whoosh and disappeared. To be on the safe side, Wang Ling felt that it would be better to let Jinka keep watch. After all, the enemy at hand was more cunning, and might already be more than a pair of long johns could protect him. When he left the staff apartment in the morning, Audrey realized that he was being followed. He and Deputy Director Zhong Lang were sitting in the same car, and both of them could clearly sense the abnormality in the back of the car. Hands on the steering wheel, the driver deliberately took several detours according to Audrey's instructions, but in the end, the grey van was still following them closely and methodically. Lord Deputy Director, what do we do now? The driver asked helplessly. Audrey frowned. We've taken so many detours, which are completely different from our usual route to work. They should have already sensed that we've discovered them. There's no point in playing hide and seek like this. Audrey calmly analyzed the situation. It was obvious that the people following them had come prepared. They knew their usual route to work like the back of their hand, and had probably already grasped a lot of intelligence on them. And it just so happened that Audrey's car was still under maintenance today, which was why he had taken Zhong Lang's car to the General Administration of 100 schools. Just thinking about it made Audrey's back break out in a cold sweat. Because it looked like the other party had been watching him for a very long time, as expected, he was still the target. Audrey sighed. Brother Zhua, what should we do now? Zhong Lang asked. Audrey took out a pair of long johns and a pair of long johns from the storage space in his pocket. Put these on and get out of the car with me. Zhong Lang was startled. What was this? Wearing this in the middle of the summer, there's no time to explain, this thing can save your life, Audrey said very calmly, and then looked at the driver in front. Then he looked at the driver in front. Driver, after you drive the car to an open space, please go back first. Their target is us. As long as we leave, you'll be safe. Then what about Director Zhua? The driver's heart trembled. In fact, he wasn't weak. If we work together, maybe, we won't succeed. They know our route like the back of their hand, and they definitely know how strong we are. For them to come looking for trouble so openly, it shows that they're very confident in their own strength. Speaking up to this point, Audrey grinned. Don't worry, I have a way. For Audrey, the most important thing now was to ensure the safety of the people's property. As long as the driver drove the car to an open space, they could minimize damage as much as possible. Secondly, the safety of Zhong Lang and this driver was equally important. As a leader, Audrey felt that he had to take responsibility. As for his own safety, he also had to consider it. Thus, after giving Zhong Lang and the driver their instructions, he immediately took out his phone and sent a text message to his Shifu Wang Ling. The text message read, smiley face angle, _Shifu, help. Chapter 663. The demon hunter never thought that he would actually be looked down upon by two stupid golden core cultivators. They were clearly two things that he could crush to death with just a little bit of strength, yet they actually dared to provoke him in front of his face. Elder Yin Jiping, Elder Ji Xing's order is to bring them back, don't worry, I know that. I won't kill them. The gloomy young man narrowed his eyes at Audrey. But I have to teach them a lesson first. Since Elder Ji Xing wants them alive, I'll make them half dead first. This demon hunter called Yin Jiping waved his hand and shouted softly, Little Rongnu. Then, a snaking bayonet with 9 bends turned into a stream of black light and appeared in his hand. Seeing this, the driver of the van cursed inwardly. Because this magic weapon was none other than Elder Een Jeeping's life-bonded magic weapon. This was a 9 zigzag bayonet that had harvested the lives of countless people. Because of its special engineering design, once the bayonet pierced the body, it would directly destroy the body's 8 extraordinary meridians and instantly paralyze the nerves. What was even more frightening was that the wounds caused by the bayonet would bleed continuously for a short period of time, and there was no way to stop it. Go! This demon hunter called Elder Een merely raised his hand, and the snaking black bayonet immediately shot forward like a swimming dragon. In order to refine this bayonet, I slaughtered 88 Western dragon-like magic beasts called Rongnu dragons, and used their brains to refine it. The bayonet is covered in poison. Given your realms, you might be able to hold on for more than 10 minutes. This Elder Een sneered. But you should rejoice. Because of Elder Ji Xing's order, I won't let you die so easily. He had controlled the poison on the bayonet, and before these 2 people were publicly executed tomorrow, they would be in unbearable pain from this poison, which would definitely be an experience more painful than death. For the confident party, this kind of abusing noobs often gave them a kind of sadistic pleasure. Back then, in order to refine this little Rongnu, and make it his life-bonded magic weapon, Elder Een had paid a great price. To let these 2 foolish golden core cultivators die under his life treasure and let them feel the pain brought by the power of his life treasure, Elder Een felt that this was the highest courtesy he could offer. It had to be said that little Rongnu's sudden thrust was extremely fast, and Odd Chua had to admit that given his current realm, there was no way he could withstand it. Therefore, the moment he saw Elder Een take out the bayonet, he instantly used Zhong Lang, who was wearing long johns, as a meat shield. Zhong Lang, Brother Zhua. Little Rongnu's might was truly formidable. The moment she pierced through, a powerful gust of wind howled like a dragon's roar. He could only say, as expected of little Rongnu, in the end, he is a golden core stage cultivator. He is really too naive. The moment Odd Chua used Zhong Lang as a meat shield in front of him, this Elder Een sneered in his heart. How could a mere golden core cultivator's body stand up to his little Rongnu's thrust? Pierce through them. Elder Een Jeeping sneered. The next moment, little Rongnu closed in, but just as the tip of the bayonet was less than half an inch away from Zhong Lang's body, a powerful golden light spread out from his body. At that moment, the power of the enchanted long johns burst forth once again. As expected, Shifu's long johns were still powerful. Odd Chua sighed in his heart, and at the same time, he felt a little nervous. Although he had already sent the text message, he didn't know whether Shifu had seen it or not. If Shifu hadn't seen it, it was still game over for him. As the meat shield, Zhong Lang was even more astonished. He had never expected that the long johns, which he had worn inside out in a moment of desperation, would actually have such solid defensive power. What was the origin of this long johns? At the same time, Zhong Lang was also deep in thought. In the outside world, there had always been rumors about Odd Chua. Many people speculated that he was being guided by an almighty who wasn't weaker than the 10 founding generals, but the identity of this almighty had always been a mystery. Could this almighty be the big shot who had made these long johns? While Zhong Lang was lost in thought, Elder Een Jeeping launched a second attack in disbelief. In the end, it was still the long johns that glowed with golden light that blocked little Rongnu's attack. This greatly astonished Elder Een Jeeping. They were just 2 golden core cultivators, how could they have such powerful Taoist robes? At that moment, Odd Chua's heart was on the verge of collapse. Relying on the long johns now, he could barely stall for time, but it was clear that this wasn't a long-term solution, because in the end, there was only one set of enchanted long johns. But just as Odd Chua's heart was being tormented, in the next moment, he suddenly saw a streak of brown spiritual light flying toward him at an extremely fast speed. That was, Odd Chua's eyes instantly widened. On the other side, Elder Yin's expression was very unsightly. What on earth is that Taoist robe you're wearing? Elder Een frowned deeply. He was annoyed that his attacks had failed twice in a row. He looked at Odd Zhua with a crafty look in his eyes. But while this Taoist robe is strong, it seems like there's only one. Elder Yin was quick-witted enough to see through this situation. In the next moment, he adjusted his attack and aimed little Rongnu at Odd Zhua, intending to start with him first. I'll get rid of you first, but to Elder Yin's surprise, it was as if this Director Zhua had suddenly taken the wrong medicine, as he directly pushed aside the meat shield in front of him and walked towards him step by step. That wasn't right. This momentum wasn't right. It shouldn't be like this. Vaguely, Elder Yin sensed that something wasn't right. Could it be that there was some kind of conspiracy here? He almost subconsciously took a step back, his heart full of questions. A few seconds ago, this golden core cultivator had clearly been hiding behind someone else. How could he suddenly become a different person? Do you have some life-saving magic treasure on you that you haven't used yet? At that moment, Elder Yin was extremely cautious as he stared at Odd Zhua. I've already used it. About 5 or 6 minutes ago, I sent a 10-cent text message. Odd Zhua stared at him and smiled. Asking for help? Elder Yin's face instantly darkened. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have asked for help so quickly, but at that moment, Odd Zhua suddenly stretched out his hand and roared at the sky. Sword, come! Following that, Elder Yin saw a brown spiritual light descending from the sky. However, this spirit light didn't turn into a spirit sword in his palm, but turned into a film of light which attached itself to Odd Zhua's body. Where's your sword? Chapter 664. The brown spirit light attached itself to Odd Zhua's body, and even his pupils were dyed the color of this spirit light. His aura almost instantly changed, and his subtle breathing gave off a heavy sense of oppression. Elder Yin Jiping couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat. That brown spirit light just now had been too fast, and even with his dynamic vision, he had only been able to see a blurry trajectory. Although he couldn't be completely sure, Elder Yin Jiping still saw that it seemed like a sword had turned into a ray of light and attached itself to this Director Zhua's body. One with the sword, Elder Yin Jiping had to admit that he had never seen a sword spirit directly attach itself to a body before in all his life of cultivation. Furthermore, Elder Yin Jiping felt that it was extremely unscientific, because under normal circumstances, the condition for the unity of man and sword to be achieved was that the compatibility between the spirit sword and its master had to reach a certain peak before such a fusion method could be realized. But the problem was that given the current situation, it was very obvious that the spirit sword which had just flown down from the sky clearly didn't belong to this Director Zhua. Even so, it was still possible to fuse with him. What on earth was this sword's origin? Elder Yin Jiping subconsciously retreated, feeling that the situation in front of him had completely reversed. The driver in the van had also already sensed that the situation wasn't good, but when he wanted to drive back, he realized that all 4 of the van's tires had burst. When had they burst? They hadn't noticed it at all. When they came back to their senses, they remembered that when the sword light had attached itself to Odd Zhua's body just now, their minds had gone blank because of their spiritual fright. They had actually been so scared that they had blacked out. Elder Yin grit his teeth and furrowed his brow. At the moment, there was already no way out, they could only fight. Furthermore, Elder Yin had always felt that he still had a chance of winning. Although this Director Zhua was currently one with his sword, it couldn't fundamentally change the strength of his body. As long as Elder Yin pierced little Rongnu's skin a little and a powerful poison seeped into this Director Zhua's body, even the sword spirit that had attached itself to him wouldn't be able to do anything about it, right? It had to be said that Elder Yin's plan was indeed very good, but it was a pity that in the end, he had been too naive. He hadn't expected at all what kind of player the sword spirit standing in front of him was. There were many situations that couldn't be judged by common sense. No matter who you are, you can no longer stop my Demon Hunters Association's grand plan. Elder Yin Jiping's expression darkened as he chose to strike first. He manipulated little Rongnu to turn into a stream of light and swiftly thrust it at Odd Zhua's chest. But before this light could get close, Elder Yin Jiping saw Director Zhua, who was possessed by the sword spirit, calmly stretch out an index finger to hold little Rongnu against his body. Jinka's first impression of little Rongnu's sudden thrust was, so weak. It was so weak that Jinka couldn't find any adjectives to describe it. This was a far cry from when he had possessed grenade-throwing senior immortal's body and fought evil sword god back then. At the very least, evil sword god's attack had tickled Jinka a little, but it could be said that this kind of attack didn't have any lethality at all. It could even be said to be completely useless. Even if it was an egg hitting a rock, it should at least cause some egg splashes. Impossible! Elder Yin Jiping screamed in his heart. There was no way a golden core cultivator could withstand this kind of attack with his physical strength. Of course, there was another explanation, and that was that it wasn't little Rongnu's body that had blocked little Rongnu's thrust, but the protective sword chi around Director Zhua. So that was it. After discovering this secret, Elder Yin Jiping smiled sinisterly in his heart. Jinka, who was attached to Odd Zhua, maintained an expressionless expression from beginning to end. He felt that this little sword spirit was still a little too young, and had no idea at all how poisonous his little Rongnu was. Brother sword spirit, if you think you can defend against my little Rongnu's poison with sword chi alone, then you're really too naive. Back then, in order to create this highly poisonous killing weapon, I slaughtered 88 female Rongnu dragons and extracted their poisonous blood essence to refine it. Elder Yin Jiping sneered. The spells he cultivated were famous for being insidious. Even back then, in order to refine this little Rongnu into his life-bonded magic treasure, he had constantly modified his own body. Elder Yin Jiping hadn't planned to use this move at first, but in the face of this protective sword chi that couldn't break through his defenses, he had no choice but to use this hidden trick. He took off his clothes from the upper half of his body and bared his arms. Then, Jinka, who was attached to Odd Zhua's body, saw that this Elder Yin's arms were actually covered in pitch-black patterns, like a zebra. Then, Jinka saw Elder Yin Jiping chant in a low voice, and the pattern instantly started to spin, forming a spiral force that condensed in his hands. At that moment, Elder Yin's hands had turned completely pitch-black, and a highly toxic poison had condensed. Furthermore, this poison even affected the air around them, and even the air itself was filled with a strong toxicity. To use this move, Elder Yin had to completely conceal his breath, and it wouldn't work even if he used the turtle breathing spell to fight. In order not to affect his thinking in battle, Elder Yin had even been very quick-witted back then to control the poison in his arms so that it wouldn't flow to other organs in his body and cause irreversible damage. So in theory, Elder Yin was a semi-poisonous person. At that moment, Elder Yin grit his teeth, gripped the hilt of little Rongnu's knife, and then transferred all the poison that had accumulated in his arms to little Rongnu's body. The already pitch-black bayonet now had a black poisonous chi lingering around it, which made it look even more terrifying. Jinka sensed it a little. Since the sword spirit wasn't strong enough, this poisonous chi could indeed seep into the sword chi. But, Jinka dropped his forehead into his hand, feeling a headache coming on. He had thought that this Elder Yin would come up with some eye-catching move, but in the end, it was still so useless. First, get rid of this scum. Jinka raised his hand, and was about to make a move. Holding the poison-enhanced little Rongnu in his hand, Elder Yin sneered. Even gods and ghosts can't resist this little Rongnu's poison. I don't believe I can't poison you to death. Who knew if it was out of habit, but before Elder Yin made his move, he licked little Rongnu's body with his tongue. Jinka, a few seconds later, Elder Yin's face turned deathly white, and he frothed at the mouth as he fell to the ground dead. Chapter 665. News of Elder Yin's death very quickly reached the military tent where Elder Ji Xing was. Everyone in the Demon Hunters Association had a soul mark on them, which would immediately disappear as soon as their death was confirmed. Elder Ji Xing was no exception. When Elder Zhuo Wu had died earlier, President Bai hadn't even confirmed it before directly turning around and leaving precisely because he had clearly sensed that the soul mark had already disappeared. But the soul mark wasn't permanent, it was a one-time mark. Neither President Bai nor Elder Ji Xing had expected Elder Zhuo Wu to come back to life on the spot. The soul suppression ring couldn't just reconstruct the body, it could also perfectly repair the soul, which was equivalent to remaking Elder Zhuo Wu's soul. Thus, when Elder Zhuo Wu came back to life, the soul mark in his body also disappeared. After a night of recuperation, Elder Ji Xing's nausea eased a little, but the moment he saw Elder Yin's soul mark disappear, he instantly felt that discomfort in his body rise again. How could this be? Elder Ji Xing grit his teeth. He hadn't expected Elder Yin to actually die just like that. In order to capture Zhuo before the operation, the Demon Hunters Association had long since investigated Director Zhuo's route to work to ensure that they would strike when the other party's defenses were at their weakest. Elder Yin had always been a decisive person, and coupled with Little Rongnu's swift and violent attacks, taking down 2 golden core cultivators should have been as easy as snapping a finger. But in the end, Elder Yin had still died. This operation to capture Zhuo Wu this time was just an impromptu act after the plan had been delayed. Because of what had happened to Elder Ji Xing last night, the plan had been delayed by a day. Thus, Elder Ji Xing had added another line to his vicious, revenge plan. He had decided to capture all the people who had offended the Demon Hunters Association and bring them to number 60 high school, and then publicly execute them when the revenge plan unfolded the next day. Unfortunately, they had gotten off to a bad start, and Elder Yin, whom they had sent out first, had inexplicably died first. "Sanako, what should we do now?" asked the man called Zhu on the side. "Send someone to retrieve Elder Yin's body. I want Yaren to do it." At the mention of Yaren's name, Elder Ji Xing's stomach felt a little uncomfortable. He did his best to calm down and then looked at Zhu. "How's Elder Poisonous Dragon doing?" "Elder Poisonous Dragon is very successful. He has already found the home of that great death-courting senior. He's just a soul formation cultivator. I believe Elder Poisonous Dragon will be able to resolve it soon." "Yes." Elder Ji Xing nodded. This Elder Poisonous Dragon was the best candidate they had specially chosen to deal with grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Little Silver. The reason why Elder Poisonous Dragon was sent was because of the silver-haired young man beside Great Death-Courting Senior in the villa. Based on their previous encounters and the information provided by Mo Immortal Castle, the silver-haired young man also had a very strong self-healing ability, so Elder Poisonous Dragon was definitely the most suitable candidate. Elder Poisonous Dragon's Poisonous Dragon Drill series of fist techniques had the effect of inflicting serious injuries, and could perfectly prevent recovery. Everyone from the Demon Hunters Association in the military tent was extremely confident in this. It was still July 24th on Monday in the 14th week of the semester. At the same time as Elder Yin's death, Little Silver and Grenade Throwing were enjoying a broccoli salad breakfast. The road to writing novels was a lot more difficult than Little Silver had imagined, so he didn't stop reading a lot of online novels during breakfast. As he nibbled on broccoli, he read Let Go of That Wet Nurse, which Father Wang had written previously. Little Silver had looked up a lot of writing guides online, and then realized that they basically didn't make much sense. The most important thing was still to practice. There were no shortcuts when it came to writing. True knowledge had always been gained through practice. Even if there were geniuses, there were very few of them. Take cultivation geniuses for example. How many people in the world could be as monstrous as Master? Therefore, people still had to have genuine ability and learning. Relying on swindling, cheating, and copying and pasting definitely wouldn't work. For example, there was a live streamer called Dean on a live streaming platform who used other people's voices to sing live, and even the songs he uploaded were copied and pasted from other singers before uploading them. He even insisted that they were his own. If you didn't want people to know about it, then don't do it. Without genuine talent, you wouldn't be able to pretend to be an elephant for long. Little Silver didn't know how the orphanage dean was doing now. He decided to do a search after breakfast to see if this live streamer was dead or not. As he ate breakfast, Little Silver also started to rethink his theme. Although Little Silver felt like a masterpiece of déjà vu for the opening chapter he had written yesterday, it still felt very conventional. So Little Silver simply deleted everything and gave up. There was a good saying, without destruction, there can be no construction. What are you thinking about? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal found it a little funny to see Little Silver racking his brains. The previous theme didn't work. I'm thinking of a new one, Little Silver replied solemnly. How about I write a novel about collars? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Little Silver, for example, the protagonist has an ancestral collar, which is connected to a chain. Whoever pulls on this chain will have their abilities copied by the collar. Then, the person who puts on the collar will get all the abilities stored in the collar. Furthermore, they can bestow the collar's abilities on other people. That's the legendary all-for-one. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Little Silver, how about it? Say something, grenade-throwing. If it doesn't work, we can modify it again. If you don't think the collar setting is good enough, we can change it to a toilet seat. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Little Silver, I've already thought of a name for the protagonist. Let's call it Silver Stalks Out of Time. But stalks. The corners of Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mouth twitched. Silver. Silver stalks out of time. Silver is my surname, it also has a deep meaning. Silver stalks out of time refers to a time when the protagonist sat on the toilet for a very long time because of constipation. In the end, he accidentally squatted on the toilet for a very long time and became the person who used the toilet the longest in the world. From then on, the protagonist Silver Stalks Out of Time accidentally obtained the ability to copy the abilities of people who squat on the toilet at the same time. Chapter 666. Little Silver felt that this setting was incomparably genius. Furthermore, this toilet seat setting could be written more than just all for one. It could also be written one for all. If the protagonist's toilet seat was set as an ancestral heirloom, each generation's successor would have a heavenly Tao. Now that the protagonist was the 3000th generation's successor, he had directly grasped 3000 heavenly Tao. How heaven-defying. No. Grenade throwing, I feel like my thoughts are gushing out. I'm going to write after I'm done eating. Little Silver got up and swallowed the broccoli in his mouth, salad sauce still on the corner of his mouth. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal silently pulled out a piece of tissue to wipe Little Silver's mouth. There were times when the urge to write was like this. Newcomers who had just entered the circle actually had this urge to write a lot of the time. And this was often the source of an outstanding work. Something written without impulse and passion wouldn't be good. Although Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal himself had never written a complete work, he was deeply convinced of this point. Ah! No! I can't take it anymore. Little Silver really couldn't take it anymore. He hadn't even finished eating the broccoli in the bowl, but he already couldn't help getting up. He looked like he was going to jump up to the second floor. Seeing this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hurriedly pounced on Little Silver and desperately pressed down on his shoulder with a horrified expression. Take the stairs. There had been several times when Little Silver had dug several holes in the villa to get up and down the stairs quickly. Little Silver, not long after Little Silver went upstairs, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal turned around to clean up the dishes. Because Little Silver could eat a lot, the broccoli salad had been mixed in a bowl recently. Watching a person with a big appetite eat was always an appetizer, so Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's appetite had inadvertently increased recently. Fortunately, broccoli was a vegetarian food, so eating too much wouldn't make you fat. Most importantly, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal realized that he and Little Silver had constitutions that wouldn't make them fat. It wasn't particularly troublesome to deal with the tableware, it mainly depended on one's mood. If Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wanted to, he would even wash it by hand instead of directly using a cleansing talisman or something like that. For modern cultivators, washing anything could be done with a washing talisman. Washing clothes or tableware by hand had become a different kind of pleasure. But he still had some important matters to deal with today, so in the end, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal chose to use the washing talisman to wash the tableware. This kind of talisman was not valuable. If bought in bulk, it would be cheaper than a year's worth of laundry detergent. Because the pattern on the talisman was relatively simple, this kind of washing talisman was currently one of the few talismans on the market that could be directly mechanically produced. More offensive or defensive talismans actually needed to be handwritten by someone. I wonder how Brother Toya is handling the matter with the girl in gray. After dealing with the tableware, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought of the girl in gray who was currently undergoing sobriety treatment on Chrysanthemum Island, and Silien Jinren had rushed over. As for the girl's identity, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was currently trying to find out. The only clue was the gray ancient clothes with simple and unadorned patterns. If he wanted to find out the girl's true identity, he could only start with the gray ancient clothes and investigate their specific age and origin. Only then would he be able to determine who on earth the girl was. But this wouldn't be easy. Last night, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had used his alternate account to take a screenshot of the pattern on the ancient clothes and post it on the cultivation forum for help. He hadn't taken a picture of the girl, nor had he taken a picture of the ancient clothes in its entirety. He just wanted to try asking in the forum, who knew, a big shot who happened to be passing by might know. At this point in time, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal guessed that there would already be a lot of replies in the forum, and was about to take a look when Audiobook suddenly called. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal directly picked up the call. Brother Joie. What's up? I was attacked on my way to work, it was someone from the Demon Hunters Association. Said Audiobook. What's the situation? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath and was very calm. Although Audiobook had said that he had been attacked, the fact that he could call him now meant that the attacker had probably already been dealt with. It's a good thing Shifu sent Lord Jinka to get here in time, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. Audiobook sighed and told grenade-throwing Senior Immortal what they currently knew. They've gathered a group of cultivators who have returned from abroad from Sun Island who are proficient in ninjutsu, and plan to launch a retaliatory attack on number 60 high tomorrow. Then why would they retaliate against you? I'm also the scapegoat for the Demon Hunters Association incident this time. Oh, no, the chief commander. They definitely want to retaliate against me. Also, I'm a senior at number 60 high. The attacker's goal was to capture me alive, and then bring me to number 60 high for a public execution tomorrow, said Audiobook. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal broke out in a sweat when he heard this. This bunch of people were too vicious, they actually did whatever they wanted. Audiobook, I'm calling Senior Immortal to remind you to be careful today. Since that Elder Zhuo Wu was able to come looking for you, maybe you're also part of his revenge plan. Alright, thank you, Brother Joie. I'll be careful. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded and then hung up. Just as he put down the phone, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly felt a cold murderous intent behind him. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, wasn't this too fast? As soon as grenade-throwing Senior Immortal turned around, sure enough, he saw a man standing in the courtyard on the first floor. The man's face and ears were very pointed, and his figure was thin. His half-closed eyes revealed an extremely cold murderous intent. The most frightening thing was that the corners of his mouth were so wide that they almost reached his earlobes. Elder Poisonous Dragon gave a very terrifying smile. May I ask, are you Great Death-Courting Senior? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who are you? Without saying anything, Elder Poisonous Dragon stretched out his hand in the next moment, and his entire right hand abruptly elongated like a spiral. With a strange purple electric light, it pierced through the garden and opened a big hole in grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's chest. When Elder Poisonous Dragon drew his hand back, he still had that strange smile on his face, and his hand was covered in dark red blood. He licked the blood off his hand and looked at Great Death-Courting Senior in front of him, which he had made a big hole in, and laughed cruelly. It's said that villains die because they talk too much, but I'm different. As long as I confirm your identity, I'll make a move right away without hesitation. Remember, my name is Poisonous Dragon. Then, he stepped directly into the house from the garden and fixed his gaze on the second floor. There was still someone there that he needed to deal with, but just as Elder Poisonous Dragon was about to move, a hand suddenly rested on his shoulder. It was grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's hand. Elder Poisonous Dragon was shocked. You, grenade-throwing senior immortal grinned. My apologies, you were talking to yourself for a long time just now, so I didn't want to disturb you. I just pretended to be dead on the ground for a while. So you're called Poisonous Dragon? Impossible. How can you still be alive? Elder Poisonous Dragon had a look of disbelief on his face as he cried out in alarm, I clearly directly stabbed you from the front. Chapter 667. Had he been hallucinating just now? At that moment, Elder Poisonous Dragon was utterly stunned. He licked the blood on his hand, which was still sticky and warm. That blow just now had indeed pierced through this great death-courting senior's heart without a doubt. Furthermore, it had indeed left a big hole in his chest, as if he had been blasted by a cannon. But the current situation was that in the blink of an eye, the other party had actually gotten up as if nothing had happened. How did you do it? Elder Poisonous Dragon's expression was full of disbelief. He firmly believed that his move just now had indeed hit the mark, and that it had been a direct hit. The second form of the lightning poisonous dragon drill had directly pierced through the chest and destroyed the heart at the speed of light. The moment the purple lightning invaded the heart, it would produce an extremely powerful blocking effect. No matter how strong one's recovery ability was, it wouldn't be able to recover. And the most important thing was that this great death-courting senior was clearly only at the soul formation stage, which was a far cry from Elder Poisonous Dragon's realm. Unless this person was hiding his strength, you're just a soul formation cultivator. No soul formation cultivator can survive a stab from me. Elder Poisonous Dragon's face was full of resentment. He had thought he had succeeded, but now that his plan had been disrupted, he was a little annoyed. What was more, he had to deal with two people this time. On the second floor, there was a silver-haired young man who was a little more difficult to deal with than this great death-courting senior. It was said that Mr. Liu and that Elder Zhuo Wu had been defeated by this young man previously. This was why Elder Ji Xing had sent him here this time. He was stronger than Mr. Liu and Elder Zhuo Wu, and most importantly, he didn't hesitate in his attacks. Elder Poisonous Dragon didn't believe it. He gritted his teeth and his right hand transformed again. This time, grenade-throwing senior immortal could clearly see that this was a spell that could transform the body, and Elder Poisonous Dragon's lightning poisonous dragon drill move was to turn his hand into a drill. It looked a little like mercury, but it was very hard and at the level of a holy weapon. At that moment, Elder Poisonous Dragon's left and right hands had turned into giant drills, and with a violent surge of purple lightning, they pierced toward grenade-throwing senior immortal. Because the body could change shape, Elder Poisonous Dragon's arms could extend like rubber men. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had never seen this move before, but from a cultivation theoretical point of view, this kind of shape-shifting technique definitely couldn't be achieved by relying on magic alone. Thus, grenade-throwing senior immortal thought of another possibility, implanting a life-bonded magic treasure. Elder Poisonous Dragon's magic weapon should have the ability to freely transform his body into various materials, and it was very likely that Elder Poisonous Dragon had implanted this magic weapon into his body so that he could use it in combination with spells. Go to hell. Elder Poisonous Dragon took a stance and muttered. Poisonous dragon drills appeared in both his hands at the same time, and they pierced grenade-throwing senior immortal's chest and head. Audi double drills. This time, it was even more violent than the first time, and it was extremely fast. When Elder Poisonous Dragon retracted his hand, there wasn't even a trace of blood on his hand. The energy that erupted from the poisonous dragon drill was too strong. It directly crushed the head and torso, and wherever it passed, the blood evaporated and the body was destroyed almost as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. When Elder Poisonous Dragon withdrew his hand, he confirmed that this great death-courting senior had been completely killed by his second attack before he heaved a deep sigh. He had now completely destroyed the upper half of this great death-courting senior's upper body, and only his two long legs were left. It would really be strange if he could survive in this state. Any resurrection spell had a core, which was usually either the head or the heart. Even if this great death-courting senior had set up a resurrection spell in his body as a precaution, this time, elder poisonous dragons, Audi double drills, had directly pierced through his chest and head. There was absolutely no chance of him surviving. After doing all this, elder poisonous dragon withdrew his hand and couldn't help wiping the sweat from his forehead. He hadn't expected to succeed today. It had taken him so much effort to deal with a soul formation cultivator. He stared at grenade-throwing senior immortal's upper body and snorted coldly. Ha! If you die to this old man's Audi double drills, your cultivation journey won't have been in vain. After saying that, elder poisonous dragon turned to leave to the second floor. However, he had just taken a step when a hand landed on his shoulder again. Be gentle. It hurts. Elder poisonous dragon. Was this person an unkillable cockroach? The person he wanted to kill was Great Death-Courting Senior. Not Great Death-Courting Senior. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal rubbed his head. The Taoist robe he was wearing was too expensive. Fortunately, the soul suppression ring had the effect of restoring his clothes. After being restored, the Taoist robe was as good as new. There wasn't the slightest crease, and it even glowed. All of a sudden, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal discovered a new way to refurbish an old Taoist robe. It was just that the price was a little heavy, and the most important thing was that the moment he was killed was indeed very painful. But grenade-throwing Senior Immortal realized that he seemed to be gradually getting used to being killed. He didn't know if it was because his entire body had been directly destroyed by evil sword god the first time, but elder poisonous dragon's poisonous dragon drill didn't hurt as much as it had the first time. In fact, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had looked for Little Silver previously and wanted him to kill him repeatedly to test out the soul suppression ring's characteristics. In the end, Little Silver refused to do it no matter what. Now, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal realized that this elder poisonous dragon's arrival was a great opportunity to test out the ring's performance. Nowadays, there weren't many villains who didn't talk much and only fought. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that he had to cherish this opportunity. Elder poisonous dragon looked at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who had been resurrected on the spot. You don't need to say anything, elder poisonous dragon. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at him expectantly, and there was even a little excitement on his face as he grabbed Elder Poisonous Dragon's hand. Elder Poisonous Dragon, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, what other tricks do you have? Use them all. Elder Poisonous Dragon suddenly felt that this great death-courting senior in front of him seemed to have a very serious tendency towards masochism. He was about to go crazy. Then, flustered and exasperated, Elder Poisonous Dragon increased the intensity of his blows and gave grenade-throwing Senior Immortal a poisonous dragon drill set. 5 minutes later, Elder Poisonous Dragon braced his hands on his knees as he panted. Looking at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal who had once again been perfectly resurrected in front of him, he looked like he had already been toyed with. Great death-courting Senior. Why can't I kill you? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal clapped his hands. The one you want to kill is Great Death-Courting Senior, what does that have to do with me? Chapter 668. It was just a mere soul formation cultivator, but he was actually helpless. Elder Poisonous Dragon looked at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's "you can't do anything to me" expression, and was furious. He had used almost all of the upgraded Poisonous Dragon drill moves just now, but the other party was still continuously resurrecting on the spot. How had he done it? Elder Poisonous Dragon couldn't figure it out at all. And all of this was within grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expectations. Elder Poisonous Dragon was indeed a powerful enemy. If he had encountered this kind of enemy who only liked to fight and was unwilling to talk before, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that he would have died long ago. But it was different now. He had a world-defying resurrection magic treasure on him, and given Elder Poisonous Dragon's strength, he wouldn't be able to break it at all. A world-defying magic treasure was so hard that unless it was a powerful attack from a true immortal, an attack from anyone below that level wouldn't be able to harm it at all. Because he knew that the person he was dealing with this time was Great Death-Courting Senior, who was only at the soul formation stage. Elder Poisonous Dragon had looked down on him from the beginning. But the truth was crueler than Elder Poisonous Dragon had imagined. The truth was that Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal didn't care about Elder Poisonous Dragon at all. From the moment he had received Audiobook's warning on the phone, Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal had known that even if it was someone sent by the Demon Hunters Association, they wouldn't be able to break his ring. Ignoring Elder Poisonous Dragon, who was panting heavily in front of him, Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal took out a small notebook and started to record down each of Elder Poisonous Dragon's attacks just now. This was a concrete summary of the Soul Suppression Ring's performance test, which didn't happen every time. Furthermore, it just so happened that he could record the data obtained from this test and enrich the Cultivation Forum's Skill Encyclopedia. The Skill Encyclopedia had a very detailed list of cultivation spells according to their categories, and even the power and damage of the skills were specifically evaluated. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal's notebook wrote, Second form of Lightning Poisonous Dragon Drill, Small Range, Long Range Attack Spell. It attacks with one hand, and when it attacks, it turns into a one-handed soft metal spiral that pierces through the body with the power of a giant cannon and is extremely lethal. Elder Poisonous Dragon. Halfway through writing, Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal suddenly turned his head to look at Elder Poisonous Dragon. Oh, that's right, Brother Poisonous Dragon, what was the name of the second move you used just now? Audi? The corner of Elder Poisonous Dragon's mouth twitched as he replied in a deep voice, Audi. Double Diamond, but the problem was. That's not the point. How did he become Brother Poisonous Dragon? Who's your brother? But Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal didn't care about Elder Poisonous Dragon's dark expression at all, and solemnly made all kinds of notes in front of him. As the owner of the Cultivation Forum, it was the responsibility of the website administrator to provide the forum with abundant information in a timely manner. At this moment, Elder Poisonous Dragon had a mental breakdown. To be honest, he kind of regretted accepting this mission. Although he had long heard that this Great Death-Courting Senior was a real weirdo, he didn't expect that he was actually of the highest quality. He was an extremely vicious and evil person. Someone who wanted to take his life. But the other party actually completely ignored him and began to take notes seriously. Elder Poisonous Dragon, what are you doing? Collecting information and then updating the forum's database. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal answered truthfully, then looked at Elder Poisonous Dragon with a smile. Brother Poisonous Dragon, thank you very much for providing valuable data on the Cultivation Forum's Skills Bank. Are you ignoring me? Are you kidding me? I'm the one who's here to kill you. Elder Poisonous Dragon couldn't take it anymore, and in the next moment, powerful spirit energy erupted from his body. Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal was blank for a moment, then hurriedly put away his little notebook. I know. Elder Poisonous Dragon, Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal, but can you kill me? In any case, you're here to carry out a mission. How about you start with the one upstairs? Elder Poisonous Dragon grit his teeth. He was already 100% sure that this Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal in front of him wasn't normal, extremely so. And for some reason, he actually felt a trace of fear. He even started to doubt this Great Death-Courting Senior's true realm. Rumor had it that this Great Death-Courting Senior was at the soul formation stage, but Elder Poisonous Dragon now felt that it was very likely that this Great Death-Courting Senior was hiding his realm. One had to know that if this person was really just a soul formation stage cultivator, then he was way too calm. In Huaxiao Nation, there were only a handful of true immortals, and no more than 100 itinerant immortals. Overseas elites like them, who had undergone professional training from the Demon Hunters Association, were the cream of the crop among itinerant immortals. In front of them, this Great Death-Courting Senior actually didn't feel the slightest bit nervous. This was enough to prove that this person definitely dealt with cultivators of higher standards frequently, which was why he could ignore the oppressive aura they exuded. Thinking this, Elder Poisonous Dragon couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat. How could someone who dealt with true immortal bigwigs on a regular basis walk with this group of people if he didn't have some skill? There was something wrong with this great death-courting senior. Elder Poisonous Dragon suddenly didn't want to make a move. He turned his gaze to the second floor, then fixed it on Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Stand here and don't move, I can let you off today, but I must kill the people on the second floor today. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded and smiled. Go ahead, Elder Poisonous Dragon was furious. In the end, he had just stepped onto the stairs when a snow-white foot had already stepped on his face and instantly sent him flying. The noise on the first floor just now had been too loud, which made Little Silver very uncomfortable. It was only when he sensed that it turned out someone had invaded. He was now in the middle of writing. His creative train of thought had been disturbed by the noise on the first floor, and Little Silver's heart was burning with rage. Who are you? Can't you be quiet? Don't you know I'm writing a book? Little Silver scratched his silver hair, feeling a little annoyed. His thoughts had been gushing up the stairs just now, but in the end, everything in his mind had been thrown into disarray. When he came down the stairs, he happened to see someone he didn't know charging up, so Little Silver straightaway gave him a flying kick. This kick was very powerful, although it was just an ordinary attack from Little Silver. Elder Poisonous Dragon was directly smashed into the wall. Kicked in the face, Elder Poisonous Dragon instantly flew into a rage. You're courting death. He used the same old trick as he used his lightning poisonous dragon drill once more. Taking into account the silver-haired young man's powerful recovery ability, Elder Poisonous Dragon didn't hold back in his attack this time. He aimed purely at Little Silver's chest and didn't hold back at all as he pierced through it. Not good. Scared now? You're dead meat. Little Silver could see that this Elder Poisonous Dragon was serious, and he wanted to dodge a little, but it was already too late. Elder Poisonous Dragon's piercing attack directly hit Little Silver's body. Unfortunately, Little Silver's body was far more durable than Elder Poisonous Dragon had imagined, and in the end, it was only a scratch. Elder Poisonous Dragon withdrew his hand with a startled expression. How could this be? When he came back to his senses, he saw this silver-haired young man wearing a collar staring at him with a face full of longing. Little Silver, so comfortable, Elder Poisonous Dragon. Chapter 669. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal realized that ever since Little Silver had put on the collar, it seemed like he had gained a strange attribute. Could it be that the people living in this villa were all masochists? That wasn't right. Although Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had begged Elder Poisonous Dragon to kill him just now, that had been for a purpose, to test the collar's performance. How could a normal person get pleasure from a small candle and a leather whip? Right. He wasn't a masochist. Instead, he was a normal person who had to sacrifice himself for his job. At this thought, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt a lot better. But the question was, when had Brother Silver's strange masochistic attribute awakened? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was very puzzled. Could it be that it was because of the Tao that Brother Silver awakened this strange attribute? Now, Elder Poisonous Dragon really regretted taking part in this operation. He was now basically certain that he had run into two big perverts who liked to be beaten up, and the kind that couldn't be killed no matter what. Putting aside this great death-courting senior who had mysteriously resurrected countless times, even this silver-haired young man in front of him was much stronger than he had imagined. The move he had unleashed with full power just now hadn't even pierced through the other party's body. How could this be? Elder Poisonous Dragon's first reaction was that Immortal Castle's information was most likely wrong. All the Demon Hunters Association's operations this time. The source of the information had come from Immortal Castle. This report contained everything the Demon Hunters Association wanted to know, and this silver-haired young man's information was within it. And Elder Poisonous Dragon was the best candidate chosen based on this information. But the problem was that Elder Poisonous Dragon was now in a very awkward situation. He couldn't beat these two people at all. Elder Poisonous Dragon's Adam's apple bobbed and a few drops of cold sweat trickled down his forehead. In this situation, if he went back to report on his mission like this, he would definitely become a laughing stock. There's no other way, I can only use my final trump card. At that moment, Elder Poisonous Dragon's expression suddenly darkened. With one look, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew that this wasn't a simple matter. Brother Silver, be careful. Little Silver crossed his arms, looking as if he didn't mind things getting out of hand. After his initial exchange with Elder Poisonous Dragon just now, he had already sensed this Elder Poisonous Dragon's overall strength. He was indeed stronger than Mr. Lu and Elder Zhuo Wu back then. However, he had also been cultivating these few days. Although he was now addicted to writing novels, he hadn't neglected his cultivation for a single day. He hadn't even digested all the crispy noodle snacks Master had given him. Once all the crispy noodles were digested and absorbed, his strength would increase by another level. In fact, with the help of crispy noodle snacks, Little Silver was improving every day. A pack of crispy noodle snacks would instantly fill Little Silver with abundant spirit energy, and in this state, a holy beast's cultivation speed would be a full 50 times faster than that of a cultivator cultivating in seclusion in a blessed land with good feng shui. Hence, Little Silver was much stronger than when he had captured Mr. Lu not long ago. Thus, Little Silver urgently needed to find an evenly matched opponent to test his strength. In the end, this Elder Poisonous Dragon just happened to come knocking on his door. Although he wasn't too happy about being interrupted while writing his novel, it was still a rare opportunity to practice. Not a loss. You should have a stronger move, right? That move just now didn't hurt, it was boring, Little Silver complained to Elder Poisonous Dragon. The corners of Elder Poisonous Dragon's mouth twitched fiercely. Motherf **** cur. He had used all his strength just now. Are you even human? The next moment, Elder Poisonous Dragon took a deep breath, and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Little Silver then saw a purple-blue spirit light attached to his hand, dual energy source. This purple spirit light was actually spirit energy, but this was the first time Little Silver had sensed a blue light mixed in with the purple light, and he felt it was a little unfamiliar. However, based on his experience, he could basically tell that this blue light was also a type of energy source, just like spirit energy and primordial qi. This was an energy source that was denser than spirit energy, but weaker than primordial qi. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal recalled what Zhuo had mentioned on the phone just now, that this group of Demon Hunters Association cultivators had all returned from overseas after cultivating on Sun Island. Then, the true nature of this energy source was very clear. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, damn. Brother Silver. Be careful. This is chakra. Little Silver was startled. What is this? An energy source unique to those ninja cultivators on Sun Island, said grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. But because spirit energy and this ninja cultivator's chakra rejected each other, it was generally impossible to use both types of energy at the same time. That was to say, this group of cultivators from the Demon Hunters Association had found a way to use both types of energy at the same time. At that moment, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal pondered this in his heart. Elder Poisonous Dragon also laughed and snorted coldly. As expected of the legendary Great Death-Courting Senior, you indeed have some experience. In order to cultivate this second energy source, we paid a huge price back then. Although we still haven't fully mastered this power, it can greatly increase our strength in a short period of time. That being said, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't believe that there wouldn't be any cost to using these two types of energy sources together, which rejected each other. In the next moment, Elder Poisonous Dragon's right hand transformed into a huge drill the size of a refrigerator. It had to be said that this move of Elder Poisonous Dragon's was indeed very imposing. Ninjutsu Lightning Poisonous Dragon Drill, 10th Form Aizen Joro's right-hand spiral rule. Then, the huge drill's fist rumbled toward Little Silver. This was indeed a powerful strike. Little Silver frowned as he stood ready for battle. Little Silver then bared his chest and directly met Elder Poisonous Dragon's drill head-on. There was still a hint of shyness on his face. Please give me more. When the two collided, there was an intense sound of metal ripping, like when a house was being renovated. 10 minutes later, Elder Poisonous Dragon completely gave up. His hands were so sore. Even more tired than taking a piss. This time, Elder Poisonous Dragon was really a little scared. He completely lost the domineering, awe-inspiring attitude he had when he had barged in earlier and directly attacked without saying a word. Because he knew that he couldn't kill these two people at all. Elder Poisonous Dragon, what do you want? Little Silver, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was directly alarmed. A criminal who had trespassed on private property actually asked them what they wanted. As a scoundrel, you should bring out your imposing manner. Chapter 670. Elder Poisonous Dragon found himself on the verge of a mental breakdown. That was because he had never encountered such a difficult situation before. His lightning poisonous dragon drill was the ultimate killing move that had allowed him to roam the world unhindered. Among the group of 15 overseas returnees from the Demon Hunters Association this time, Elder Ji Xing was undoubtedly the strongest, followed by Elder Yaren, who was famous for the body transformation spell. Elder Poisonous Dragon was ranked 4th overall, and 3rd was Elder Mingren, who had just arrived in Huaxiao Nation with the 9-tailed demon fox and had become autistic after being shaved bald by Huaxiao's dreadful hairdresser. Although Elder Poisonous Dragon was only ranked 4th, from a restraining point of view, his lightning poisonous dragon drill had a natural restraining effect on Elder Yaren's body transformation spell. That was to say, even Elder Yaren, who had an extremely strong self-healing ability, would have his self-healing ability greatly reduced in the face of Elder Poisonous Dragon drill. But what Elder Poisonous Dragon had just used was his strongest move, Ninjutsu, Lightning Poisonous Dragon Drill 10th Form Aizen Joro's right-hand spiral rule. In order to use this move, he hadn't even hesitated to combine it with Sun Island's unique second energy source, chakra, which he hadn't yet fully mastered. In a situation where spirit energy and chakra were incompatible, he had to pay a certain price to use this move, and it was exactly as Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had thought earlier. After using that extremely powerful killing move just now, Elder Poisonous Dragon's expression didn't look very good. He was a very thin person to begin with, but after using that move just now, it was as if all his energy had been sucked out of him, and he was thoroughly reduced to skin and bones. His eye sockets were deeply sunken, his body was covered in fine beads of sweat, and even his hair had instantly turned white. He looked like he had aged several decades. Sure enough, he paid a price. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal cupped his chin in his hand, then took out a small notebook to record what he saw. This was the after effect of a cultivator combining spirit energy and chakra, two mutually exclusive energy sources, to cast a spell. The information circulating online about the after effects had always been inaccurate, but now there was finally a real case that he could observe up close. It was just that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't quite understand why the combination of these two types of energy was so destructive to the body. Little Silver slowly walked over and crouched down to look at Elder Poisonous Dragon. Elder Poisonous Dragon was as scared as a weak girl being targeted by a hoodlum. "Don't come over. Come any closer. I'll call the police." Elder Poisonous Dragon kicked his legs and moved back a few steps, shrinking into the corner of the wall. His body was too weak to stand up at all. The damage caused by that move just now was beyond his imagination. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Little Silver observed Elder Poisonous Dragon's condition, then finally bit his nails and said, "He probably used the fat in his body as a medium, that's why he's so thin now." "So, it's a spell that converts fat into chakra and acts as an adaptive medium so that Ryatsu won't conflict with it?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal immediately understood and noted this down. This was a very important discovery. Little Silver crouched down and poked Elder Poisonous Dragon, who was shivering in the corner. Elder Poisonous Dragon had already completely passed out and was muttering something like a nightmare. Little Silver sighed. Another crazy one. Furthermore, Little Silver had discovered a very important point: anyone who came to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa to cause trouble didn't seem to have a good ending. Little Silver pinched Elder Poisonous Dragon's face. After confirming that the other party had completely passed out, he turned his head to look at Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Should I call Little Master? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed from the bottom of his heart. Little Silver had already gotten used to this the first time. On the other side, Odd Jewel was dealing with Elder Yin's body when he received Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's call. Elder Yin had collapsed to the ground and was foaming at the mouth as if he had been poisoned to death. Neither Odd Jewel nor Zhong Lang dared approach him. Because Elder Yin's body was still poisonous, they had to be extra cautious when dealing with him. It was like encountering a venomous snake in the desert. After killing it with poison, you had to bury the snake's head somewhere else. This was because even after death, a venomous snake still had nerve venom in its mouth, and if you were careless and were stabbed, you would still die. After all, the poison in this Elder Yin's body was unique enough to kill you, so after Elder Yin died, Jinka, who was attached to Odd Jue's body, directly chose to take control of the driver in the van. Jinka then separated from Odd Jue's body and turned back into a peachwood sword. Odd Jue didn't dare touch Jinka directly, and only dared to do so after putting on white gloves, which was a form of reverence. Odd Jue had prepared these white gloves early on in the hope that he would be more polite when he fought alongside Lord Jinka one day. Looks like my guess was right, someone really did go looking for trouble with Senior Immortal, Odd Jue said into the phone. Fortunately, it's not a big problem. This person has already been dealt with, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal replied. I just asked the van driver about something. The person who went looking for trouble with Senior Immortal is an elder called Poisonous Dragon, who is ranked 4th among the 15 overseas returnee elites of the Demon Hunters Association. Odd Jue sked. How did Senior Immortal deal with him? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal laughed. He couldn't touch us at all. Then, he exhausted himself to death. Odd Jue, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Brother Jue, how's the situation? Do you need help? Not for now. Odd Jue shook his head. Because this Elder Yin's body is highly toxic, we can't approach him directly. I just called the municipal police station and asked them to seal off this part of the road for the time being to prevent passers-by from passing through. The anti-chemical protection personnel are on their way now, and they'll be responsible for dealing with this Elder Yin's body. That's good. We've already taken control of this Elder Poisonous Dragon, and we'll wait for Brother Jue to deal with him, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. Odd Jue, alright, Senior Immortal. I'll go over after I deal with Elder Yin's body and the anti-chemical protection team arrives. Then, the call ended. Odd Jue heaved a deep sigh in his heart. He suddenly felt like he had become very busy. And for some reason, he had a bad feeling in his heart. He looked up at the end of the road, worried about the anti-chemical protection team who still hadn't arrived. Chapter 671. On the other side, Elder Yaren was on his way to retrieve the body. After receiving Elder Ji Xing's order, Elder Yaren set off right away and hurried along the way. Elder Yin was a half-poisonous person, so he was still useful even after his death. The most insidious way to use his body was to directly throw it into the school after number 60 High set up the barrier the next day and detonate it. In this way, the poison that had accumulated in Elder Yin's body would completely spread along with the explosion, and all the teachers and students in the school would suffer. They wouldn't die right away, because the spread of the poison would cause the concentration to drop. After experiencing unbearable pain and itching all over their bodies, all the teachers and students would explode with poison blisters all over their bodies and die. So for the Demon Hunters Association, even if Elder Yin died, he was a chess piece that they couldn't give up easily, because it would affect their later plans. Elder Yaren was driving a blood-red scythe, which was his personal magic weapon called Condemnation Hook. This was a third-class holy weapon which was very lethal, and the most frightening thing about it was its ability to appear and disappear unpredictably. This condemnation hook could also split into a blood-like substance in battle, and didn't have any particular fixed form. As for locating Elder Yin, Elder Yaren also had his own methods. He was extremely sensitive to blood, and could follow the trail of Elder Yin's blood after his sudden death. This was a powerful tracking method called blood hunting spell. Elder Yaren never thought that he would actually use this spell not long after returning to the country, and on his own people at that. Ha! What a useless thing, he couldn't even deal with 2 golden core good-for-nothings. But Elder Yaren didn't let his guard down, because on paper, Elder Yin shouldn't have lost so miserably in front of 2 golden core cultivators. The 2 golden core cultivators probably had other means of self-defense, or an almighty hiding behind them had made a move. As Elder Yaren steered the condemnation hook forward, he couldn't help thinking about this. From the start of the entire plan, the person they had to guard against the most was that almighty who looked like a teenager. They had very limited information on this young almighty. The Demon Hunters Association's reason for wanting to massacre number 60 High this time was also very simple. Retaliating against number 60 High was actually just one part of the plan. More importantly, they had to unearth the treasure hidden behind number 60 High. Apart from this reason, they really couldn't think of any reason why an almighty who looked like a teenager would be holed up in a Foundation Establishment high school. Perhaps the secret of Heavenly Tao was hidden in number 60 High. But in any case, it was all just conjecture. They would only know for sure when they carried out the plan tomorrow. At the same time, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa, Little Silver was tied up. He had given a lot of things when he had bought the collar previously. In addition, there were in Senior Immortal's hand. Little Silver was gratified to find that it had finally come in handy this time. He tied Elder Poisonous Dragon up in a very artistic posture, then stuffed a ball into Elder Poisonous Dragon's mouth and helped him put on a blindfold. Senior Yin's eyes and the eyes and mouth, was, Almighty Yin's eyes, Long Senior yelled, he put. Brother Silver, this rope isn't tough enough, he'll break free, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said as he examined the rope. It's fine, he's weak now, and I've also cast a body-securing curse on him. The most important thing is that I just wiped my saliva on the rope, and it's much tougher now, Little Silver said. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal drew his hand back. No wonder he had felt the rope was wet just now, he had thought it was damp. It turned out to be saliva. Little Silver's saliva was a little omnipotent. I'll tie him up like this for now. Little Silver clapped his hands, feeling like he had succeeded. He took out his phone and took several photos of Elder Yin from different angles. Then, he opened his WeChat moments, edited, and sent. Little Silver actually didn't have many people in his WeChat moments, just a few in the chat group, Dog Bapi, Big and Small Master, Salyanjinren, Immortal Toya, Lightning Dharmaraja and so on. Because he often stayed at home and his social circle was relatively small, Little Silver actually knew very few people. One of the few new friends he had was Wei Ji, whom Loopy Toad had introduced to him. Because Little Silver also liked to play team games, he would call Wei Ji over to play a duo game when he had nothing to do, but even with a limited number of friends, this picture still caused an explosive visual effect when it was sent. Salyanjinren was directly startled. She raised her hand to like it, and then replied, "What the hell? Is this Senior Immortal's house?" Little Silver, you're openly playing SM, isn't Senior Immortal going to do something about it? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took out his phone and glanced at his WeChat moments, then sighed silently. He couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't do anything about this Silver. Lightning Dharmaraja, I never thought Brother Little Silver would actually be this kind of Silver. I like it. Loopy Toad, wow, so you like this. Okay, I'll find you one later. There are a lot of old men and old ladies when you go for a stroll in the market, you can pick one. Little Silver cocked his head. There's nothing wrong with this posture. When I was in the clan, my grandfather taught me to tie like this. He said it's especially good, and he often used it on my grandmother. I've been practicing this for a long time. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Salyanjinren, Lightning Dharmaraja, Immortal Toya, Brother Little Silver, how about you take off the blindfold and the ball in the mouth? You'll look a little better that way. Is that so? Little Silver was actually a little puzzled. Since the ball in the mouth and the blindfold were complementary decorations, there had to be a place for him to sing. But seeing that everyone was in agreement, Little Silver still took off Elder Poisonous Dragon's blindfold and ball in the mouth. As a result, with this movement, Elder Poisonous Dragon actually woke up from his unconscious state. He found himself tied up in a very shameful position, and Little Silver was holding the blindfold and ball in his hands. The ball in the mouth was still stained with his saliva. Thus, Elder Poisonous Dragon stared at Little Silver in horror. What did you do to me? Little Silver took out his phone and showed the photo to Elder Poisonous Dragon. It's nothing, it's just a normal photo record. When you were asleep just now, I made a lot of poses for you. Look, it's actually quite artistic. Elder Poisonous Dragon nodded. At that moment, Elder Poisonous Dragon's face was red. He felt that he already didn't have the face to continue living. About 5 minutes later, inside the military tent, Elder Ji Xing saw Elder Poisonous Dragon's soul mark disappear like an exploding light. In the end, Elder Poisonous Dragon died under his own romantic drill. Chapter 672. Elder Poisonous Dragon's soul mark had disappeared so abruptly that it was even more merciless than when a male guest on the dating show, If You Are the One, had his lights extinguished. Staring at the spirit crystal ball in front of him, Elder Ji Xing repeatedly confirmed that the soul mark had disappeared, and the result was a little hard for him to accept. Before the official start of the operation tomorrow, 2 of the 15 Overseas Returnee Demon Hunters Association elites had actually died in battle. And one of them was Elder Poisonous Dragon, who was ranked in the top 5. This tragic loss was very hard for Elder Ji Xing to bear, and as for how Elder Poisonous Dragon had died, that was also a mystery. Even if that silver-haired young man was a little difficult to deal with, at the very least, Great Deathcourting Sr., who was only at the soul formation stage, should have been able to deal with him. Thus, Elder Ji Xing felt a deep sense of strangeness in this matter. What are you thinking, Sanako? Asked Elder Nank, who looked like a child on the outside but was an adult on the inside. Elder Ji Xing scratched the back of his head and sighed, feeling a headache coming on. I'm thinking whether our operation this time is accurate or not. When all was said and done, they had no idea what this young expert's true realm was, and President Bai had never fought him before. He only made a rough estimate that the other party was most likely an early or middle true immortal expert. But in the battle tomorrow, in addition to setting up the barrier, President Bai would also personally deal with this young expert. This would be a true immortal showdown between true immortals. But that was the problem. They had only estimated that the other party was a true immortal. What if the other party was stronger than early or middle true immortal? Is Sanako afraid? Elder Nank's words were merciless. Afraid? How is that possible? Elder Ji Xing shook his head. As the saying went, those who had nothing to lose weren't afraid of those who wore shoes. Since they had already chosen to organize this attack, of course they wouldn't be afraid. Even if they couldn't kill this young expert in the end, as long as they could retaliate against the other teachers and students of number 60 high, their plan would be considered a success. No matter how strong that young expert was on his own, there was no way he could protect everyone while he was entangled with President Bai, right? He wasn't Heavenly Tao. That was what Elder Ji Xing thought. At that moment, Elder Nank asked, shouldn't we collect Elder Poisonous Dragon's body? Du Long must have overdrawn his strength. Even if his body is left behind, it will be of no use to us. There's no harm in not retrieving it. When the Demon Hunters Association implanted the soul imprint, we also set up the soul imprint. Once the implant dies, all the memories left in the skull will disappear. So there's no need to worry about the police finding any clues from Elder Poisonous Dragon's body, said Elder Ji Xing. The only thing he was concerned about now was whether the process of retrieving Elder Yaren's body had gone smoothly. He was ranked second only to him in terms of overall combat strength among the 15 people. Elder Ji Xing was very confident in this. He used blood hunting method to chase after Elder Ian until he reached the section where he died. Elder Yaren found a hidden spot at the end of the road to land. Because this section of the road had already been sealed off, not to mention the high-altitude control up ahead, there were even layers of roadblocks set up on the ground. Vehicles that had to pass this road had to be directed to other roads by the traffic police at the intersection. It seemed that Elder Ian was not far ahead. Elder Yaren narrowed his eyes. He guessed that the other party clearly already knew that Elder Yin's body was highly toxic, which was why they had chosen to seal off the road and the sky. They wouldn't let any cultivators pass. Even if Elder Ian was already dead, the poison in his body would still be extremely terrifying, so it was actually a very wise decision for the police to deal with it this way. But this just happened to give Elder Yaren an opportunity. Because there were no outsiders passing through this section of the road, the only people passing by were police vehicles. Thus, when he saw a fully armed white anti-chemical vehicle in the distance stop at the intersection to be inspected by the traffic police, Elder Yaren already had an idea. He was a person who did not like to cause unnecessary trouble. Since the organization's mission this time was for him to bring back Elder Yin's corpse, then he would avoid as many battles as he could. Otherwise, it would only bring unnecessary trouble before the big plan officially started tomorrow. Blood escape body teleportation spell. Elder Yaren said in a low voice. His entire body instantly turned into flowing blood that scattered all over the ground as he scurried off in one direction. This, blood escape body teleportation spell, was also one of Elder Yaren's famous skills. It allowed him to freely divide his body into liquid and move around, then reassemble it at a designated location. It was different from the body transformation spell. Strictly speaking, the body transformation spell was a resurrection spell. Even after death, Elder Yaren could use the body transformation spell to reconstruct his body. But the blood escape body teleportation spell was actually a movement technique that allowed Elder Yaren to freely transform his body into blood. The trickiest thing was that this spell could be used in battle. If used properly, it could cancel out all physical spells and spirit techniques at the same time. Hence, physical attacks were useless against Elder Yaren, which was why he was ranked so high. He was a man who was immune to physical attacks. He was also known as Elder Ant. In the middle of the road, a stream of blood swiftly took up residence, and little by little, it finally piled up to form a young man with short white hair. He was wrapped in a dark red Taoist robe embroidered with a blood-red sun pattern. Elder Yaren teleported himself to the middle of the road, and at that moment, the anti-chemical vehicle coming from the intersection was also approaching Elder Yaren. When the little brother driving the vehicle saw a person suddenly appear in the middle of the road, he was startled and hurriedly stepped on the brakes. Why is there a person? Ah! Not good. But it was already too late. The entire anti-chemical vehicle directly ran over Elder Yaren's body. The little brother who was driving the vehicle was dumbfounded. When he got out of the car to check, he saw that the bottom of the car's wheels was actually mottled with blood. He had actually crushed this person into a paste. Wearing a white anti-chemical suit, the little brother knelt on the ground in great grief and started to doubt his life. It was over. Everything was over. He had run over someone and his career was ruined. What's going on? There were several other anti-chemical personnel in the same car, and they all got out at that moment to check on the situation. Seeing that everyone was present, Elder Yaren immediately transformed from blood to human form. When the anti-chemical personnel let their guard down, he immediately cast a spell. Blood binding spell. A blood-colored waterfall shot out of Elder Yaren's palm and turned into a long bloody whip, which tightly bound up the 6 members of the chemical defense team. Chapter 673. The overall situation was going more smoothly than Elder Yaren had imagined. The blood-binding spell wasn't just a simple confinement spell, but a dark spell that could transform chi and blood into spirit energy to replenish one's body. All dark spells were currently banned on the market and weren't allowed to be used or sold. However, this type of spell was very popular in foreign markets. Elder Yaren only drew out part of the qi and blood in these little brothers' bodies so that they fainted from lack of qi and blood, and didn't completely kill them. Because from the very beginning of the plan, Elder Yaren had already decided not to do anything superfluous. His goal was very clear, and that was just to retrieve the corpses. Even if Director Zhuo got in the way of retrieving the corpses, Elder Yaren didn't intend to tangle with him too much. All of this wouldn't affect tomorrow's master plan. The qi and blood absorbed from these little brothers turned into a glowing scarlet magic ball which floated slightly above Elder Yaren's head. In the end, this scarlet magic ball poured in through the top of his skull and was thoroughly absorbed by Elder Yaren. At the same time, Elder Yaren's body gave off a red luster, and his complexion seemed to have improved significantly, converting qi and blood into spirit energy to replenish his body. Drawing out 30% of the qi and blood from each of the 6 golden core cultivators was a considerable amount of profit. Because Elder Ji Xing had drunk a part of his body previously, Elder Yaren was still a little weak. But now that he was filled with this energy, Elder Yaren indeed felt a lot more comfortable. How's the plan going? At that moment, Elder Ji Xing's voice came from Elder Yaren's soul mark. He was using the soul crystal ball in front of him to communicate remotely using a spell. The biggest advantage of this method of communication was that it could reach the soul directly and ignore signals. Even in an area where there was no signal at all, you could use this method to contact someone who had a soul mark on them. The most important thing was that they wouldn't be monitored. Because of the sudden deaths of Elder Yin and Elder Poisonous Dragon, Elder Ji Xing was a little worried about the progress of Elder Yaren's mission. As the second strongest person in their 15-member team in terms of overall fighting strength, it would be a huge loss to the whole team if he died just like that. So far, it's going very smoothly, Elder Yaren replied. He knew that the communication with the spirit crystal ball had been activated, and he only needed to think of a reply in his mind. Elder Yaren hid the fainted little brothers in the green belt on the side and set up a scarlet barrier here. This was a barrier spell which could completely conceal this group's aura. Hearing Elder Yaren's reply, Elder Ji Xing breathed a sigh of relief, and then said solemnly, "I just received the latest reply from Mo Immortal Castle. The road where Elder Yin was located had already been sealed off, and the anti-chemical warfare team was on their way there. This matter must be resolved as soon as possible." "Of course." Elder Yaren replied, "My task is just to retrieve the corpses. I've already stopped their anti-chemical protection vehicle and am ready to sneak in disguise. Don't worry, I don't plan to do anything else. I'm just going to retrieve the corpse very quickly. I'll definitely return intact." Elder Yaren's voice came out of the spirit crystal ball. But for some reason, Elder Ji Xing felt rather uneasy when he heard this. Meanwhile, on the other side of the road, Odd Zhua and Zhong Lang were still waiting for the anti-chemical protection vehicle. The anti-chemical protection vehicle was too slow. They had already been waiting here for a long time, and during this time, Elder Yin's highly toxic body had already reacted, and some black poisonous gas was slowly spreading out from his corpse. This highly toxic gas had a powerful corrosive power, and even the ground was being melted. At the same time, it was also burning the van on the side. Elder Yin's corpse had now been completely reduced to a highly acidic and corrosive poison. Zhong Lang pinched his nose. "Brother Zhua, is this really okay?" His gaze couldn't help drifting to the peach-wood sword in Odd Zhua's hand. Needless to say, it was the power of this spirit sword that had helped them escape danger just now. But Zhong Lang still couldn't quite believe his eyes, because the problem was that this sword just looked like an ordinary peach-wood sword. He had seen many identical ones in the flower and bird market. This peach-wood sword had actually given birth to a sword spirit. Just a moment ago, it had actually attached itself to Odd Zhua's body to fight against Elder Yin. Zhong Lang felt that everything he knew had already been turned upside down, and his mind was in a mess. The anti-chemical protection team will be here soon. Let's try to hold our breaths. After saying that, he and Zhong Lang took a few more steps back. The black poisonous gas emitted from Elder Yin's corpse had already started to spread like a poisonous circle, and was about to reach their feet. At that moment, the spirit sword in Ajua's hand trembled slightly. He was startled. Lord Jinka. At that moment, Jinka made a move again. He drew a circle with sword chi around Elder Yin's corpse to create a brown barrier that firmly trapped the poisonous gas inside. During the process, Zhong Lang clearly saw the virtual body of a sword spirit with short white hair that looked like a 10-year-old child. Although Jinka's true appearance had been fleeting, Zhong Lang had still seen it. For some reason, Zhong Lang's heart inexplicably sped up, and his face flushed. He felt that this peachwood sword was a little cool. Brother Zhua, this spirit sword, it's my Shifu's spirit sword. Zhua didn't avoid the topic. In fact, a lot of people knew that he had a Shifu, but who on earth this Shifu was still a mystery. Zhong Lang's emotions surged. Brother Zhua's Shifu's spirit sword is a little cool. Does he have a name? Does he have an underling? Zhua looked into the air and said, he's called Jinka. I'm used to calling him Lord Jinka. Jing as in Jing, Ku as in a dream of grandeur. Jinka? What a good name. Zhong Lang was very excited. So it was Lord Jinka, he felt that he had already become a fan. Crap. Was this what it felt like to be moved? Just as Zhong Lang was filled with excitement, he could vaguely hear the sound of a car approaching up ahead. The anti-chemical protection car had finally arrived. Elder Yaren got out of the driver's seat. He was wearing a white anti-chemical protection suit that he had taken off one of the little brothers earlier. Even his eyes were completely hidden by the reflective material of the chemical protection suit's mask, and his entire body was wrapped up so tightly that his face couldn't be seen at all. After the anti-chemical protection vehicle came to a stop, Elder Yaren feigned respect and waved at them, then swept his eyes over their surroundings. The corpse poison in Elder Yin's body had already turned into black qi and was spreading out, but this black qi was actually contained within a brown barrier. Comrade, are you the only one? Zhua greeted him from a distance. Yes. Elder Yaren nodded. The more he said, the more mistakes he would make, so he was concise and to the point. Zhua nodded. In fact, it wasn't that he didn't understand. After all, retrieving the poisoned corpse was very risky. Outside the barrier, Zhua stretched out his hand to shake this little brother's hand. Thank you for your hard work, comrade. I'll talk to your leader later. What we need now is someone with a fearless and sacrificial spirit like you. Ha, you flatter me. Considering Zhua's identity, Elder Yaren felt that it was better to shake hands with him in order not to give himself away. So he walked out of the sword chi barrier that Jinka had created, took off his gloves, and shook hands with Zhua. After shaking hands, Elder Yaren returned to Elder Yin's body. He was extremely nervous, afraid that he would give himself away. Zhua saw that this little brother had even forgotten to put his gloves back on before directly touching Elder Yin's body. Zhua, comrade, wait. Unfortunately, it was already too late. About 5 minutes later, inside the military tent, Elder Ji Xing observed Elder Yaren's soul imprint through the spirit crystal ball. It was different from Elder Yin's and Elder Poisonous Dragon's lights, which had directly exploded. But as soon as Zhua stepped in, the brown protective sword chi directly parted the poisonous gas like a god parting the sea, leaving a path for him to pass through. Then, Zhua, who had been possessed by Jinka, raised his hand and used sword chi to prop up the fallen little brother and drag him out of the poisonous sword chi barrier. Zhong Lang, it's a success. However, things did not end there. After dragging this little brother out, Jinka separated from Zhua's body, and Zhong Lang once again saw Jinka's true form, a cute little Shota with short white hair and a poker face. There's something wrong with this person. Jinka stared at the little brother who had been rescued in front of him and muttered to himself. Although Elder Yaren had already concealed his aura, he still couldn't escape Jinka's perception. As a member of the anti-chemical protection team, this member had a strange advantage of having a high realm, and it was precisely this that attracted Jinka's attention. He raised his hand and with a light swipe of his fingertips, the entire anti-chemical protection suit was cut in two. Elder Yaren's true form was finally exposed. Zhong Lang, Brother Zhua, who is this person? Odd Zhua shook his head. A hen, Zhong Lang. It was only then that Odd Zhua realized that the anti-chemical protection team member had probably been intercepted and had been replaced. They had checked the information on the members of the anti-chemical protection team before, and had also seen photos of them from the police station. In order to retrieve Elder Yin's body this time, the cultivation police station closest to here had sent 6 members of the anti-chemical protection team. But when the anti-chemical protection car had arrived just now, only the driver had gotten out of the car. Odd Zhua patted his head in sudden realization. He should have realized it earlier. Zhong Lang, then what do we do now? Odd Zhua sighed. Have the police station send another team over. Also, quickly search for information on this anti-chemical protection team. This person has the Demon Hunters Association logo on him, so he must have been sent by them to retrieve the body. Staring at Elder Yaren on the ground, Odd Zhua was a little speechless. This was too unlucky. At that moment, the intense poison in Elder Yin's body had already seeped into Elder Yaren's body and was wantonly destroying his cells. At the same time, Elder Yaren's new cells were constantly being reconstructed. This directly resulted in Elder Yaren's current state, which was like a loach that had been bitten by a ghost, twitching non-stop on the ground. Odd Zhua never expected the Demon Hunters Association to send Elder Yin. He had actually used this method to inflict a heavy blow on himself and his allies. A double kill. At the same time, in the headmaster's office at number 60 High, Headmaster Chen hadn't rested that day, and had just arrived at school. This was because he had received a message from Odd Zhua earlier. The Demon Hunters Association was going to launch a retaliatory attack on number 60 High, and had also mobilized a large number of elite cultivators who had practiced ninjutsu on Sun Island from overseas. It could be said that the severity of the situation had suddenly risen several notches. In comparison, the Shadow Stream assassin invasion back then was nothing compared to this premeditated organized attack. At the same time, Director Shi, the Director of Education at number 60 High, was also notified. Lord Headmaster, how should we deal with this matter? Director Shi asked on one side. She had been sitting at home eating melons for the last 2 days. A lip-syncing live streamer called Dean had been hammered into the ground by a web novelist, and had directly died in society. In the end, she had been happily eating melons when she received Odd Zhua's intelligence message, and had rushed over to the school without stopping. Given our current teaching strength, I'm afraid we won't be able to protect all the students, and it will also take time for the higher-ups to mobilize manpower. Lord Headmaster, you mean, the main reason I called you here is to coordinate the work of the teachers and parents. Some of the students' parents are very resourceful, and may have already heard some rumors. You have to think of a way to stabilize them. Headmaster Chen's words were very profound, but the expression on his face was as calm as usual, and he couldn't help smiling. But we probably don't need to worry too much about this matter. Whether or not these killers can make it here alive tomorrow is a question. Director Shi scratched her head, not understanding what he meant. Chapter 675. Mother Wan had worked at number 60 High for over 100 years, and the first generation of teachers at number 60 High had eaten her cooking since its founding. A lot of teachers were very familiar with Mother Wan, but sometimes when they thought about it carefully, they felt that their understanding of her was really very limited. They didn't even know her background at all, and only knew that she had a lot of disciples in the culinary world. So when she heard Headmaster Chen's words, Director Shi's expression turned a little profound. The headmaster didn't say everything clearly, but even so, it was already extremely frightening to think about. Since the food tasting at the parents' food tasting event wasn't prepared for the parents, then, had Mother Wan already anticipated the Demon Hunters Association's attack? Director Shi didn't dare think about it further, because the result might be too horrifying for her, even though she was the director of teaching at number 60 High. Although she was the director of teaching at number 60 high, Director Shi had been teaching at number 60 high for less than 1/5 as long as Mother Wan. At first, Director Shi had always thought that Mother Wan was just an ordinary cook who usually liked to research new and novel cuisines. But now that Headmaster Chen had mentioned it, Director Shi instantly felt that she wasn't so simple. It's not convenient for me to say too much about this matter. Director Shi, please think about it yourself. Headmaster Chen crossed his fingers and smiled slightly. Our school is small, but some of the teachers' backgrounds aren't simple. Director Shi wiped at her sweat. I understand, Headmaster Chen, don't underestimate the teachers around you, and don't ignore the parents' feelings. Some parents are definitely already aware of this matter. I'll take care of safety, but I'll have to trouble you with the parents' emotions and feelings. Very well, Lord Headmaster. Director Shi nodded. She sighed in her heart, because she wasn't sure if all the parents knew about this. Regarding this, Director Shi decided to arrange for the teacher in charge to coordinate with the teachers who were free to make home visits in groups of 2s and 3s later. Elsewhere, Odd Chua had already confirmed Elder Yaren's identity. Not only was he an elite overseas returnee member of the Demon Hunters Association, his position in the organization wasn't low. The police found a lot of proof of his identity from the communication devices seized on him, as well as evidence that he was in close contact with that Elder Ji Xing Songhai First Prison. When Odd Chua arrived again, the prison guards at the entrance were already familiar with him. From a distance, they saw Odd Chua's license plate number and confirmed the identity of the person in the car, and the prison gates slowly opened before Odd Chua's car could approach. Now, all of Odd Chua's work related to arresting criminals was coordinated with Songhai First Prison. Apart from providing a place to hold prisoners, the prison would also conduct subsequent interrogations here. Earlier, Elder Yaren had been directly driven here by a new member of the anti-chemical protection team to be held in isolation. His body was deeply poisoned. Although the recovery cells in his body were continuously healing him, it seemed like there was no way to completely cleanse Elder Yin's poison. The silver lining of the entire misfortune was that the anti-chemical defense team members sent by the first team hadn't died. They had been discovered in the Green Belt, where there was a hidden barrier set up by Elder Yaren. After a careful search, the corresponding evidence could be found. In other words, this Elder Yaren hadn't intended to cause any trouble from the beginning, and his only goal had been to retrieve Elder Yin's body. In the end, he had fallen for it. In the car, Odd Chua slapped his face and dropped his forehead into his hand. What kind of operation was this? Zhong Lang, Brother Chua, you look a little uncomfortable, are you all right? Odd Chua, I'm fine, it's just a little pain in the ass. Zhong Lang. After sending Odd Chua off, Zhong Lang returned to the general administration of 100 schools first, because they already knew about the Demon Hunters Association's revenge plan against number 60 high tomorrow. Furthermore, word of this alarmist revenge plan had already leaked to some parents, and the general administration of 100 schools' back-end hotline was already exploding with calls from number 60 high parents, most of whom had come to verify the situation. Thus, Zhong Lang had no choice but to go back and deal with important matters first. It was very important to appease the parents. It was normal for people to be afraid of the unknown. Furthermore, the ultimate leader of the Demon Hunters Association had been on the run all along. Now that the other party had chosen to retaliate against number 60 high, the alma mater of Odd Chua, who was the chief commander of the Demon Hunters Association incident, a lot of the parents were indeed terrified. Odd Chua already had no intention of looking at the information online. As the chief commander of this incident, President Bai hadn't yet been caught, and as the person in charge of the general administration of 100 schools, Odd Chua indeed couldn't escape the blame. Odd Chua felt that it was fine to be scolded a little, in any case, it was fine as long as he was thick-skinned enough. As a person, it was fine as long as he had a clear conscience. The most thick-skinned thing he had ever done in his life was acknowledge Wang Ling as Shifu. Thus, the superficial scolding online didn't matter to Odd Chua at all. Warden Liang had already been waiting in the office for a long time. As soon as Odd Chua entered, Warden Liang smiled at him. As the saying went, some people were happy while others were sad. While Audjua was indeed being scolded, Warden Liang was happy. In the last 2 or 3 months, more bigwigs had been detained in Songhai prison than in previous years combined. Nowadays, the quality of the prisoners in the prison was also very important. With so many high-quality prisoners, the prison's profits were huge. The spirit energy limit on the spirit shackles could be adjusted through technical means. Usually, the old devil, master of immortal mansion Cheng Yu and evil sword god would loosen some of the spirit energy restrictions on the spirit shackles they wore. For example, they were allowed to use 5% of their spirit energy, which they then used to help complete various construction tasks in the prison. The old devil and the others were often regarded as important labor and were ordered about. They looked leisurely and could usually find time to play cards, but the truth was that they were just taking a break from their busy schedule. Although this Elder Yaren was currently still poisoned, Warden Liang was already deeply aware that Elder Yaren's special characteristic was that he was close to immortality. Director Zhua, please sit. Warden Liang pulled Audjua to one side, then urged a male secretary in the office who looked a little dazed. What are you spacing out for? Hurry up and pour some tea for Director Zhua. After saying that, Warden Liang felt that just drinking tea wasn't appropriate, so he asked Audjua in a low voice, "That, old Zhua. I just bought an 800-year-old bottle of Commander Li's brand sweet potato wine. Do you want to try it?" Audjua, it's office time, no need, all right then. Warden Liang nodded, found a seat, and looked at Audjua. If you want to drink it, come find me anytime. Don't stand on ceremony with me. Audjua sighed. How's it going? We've found some clues from the equipment this Elder Yaren is carrying. This Elder Yaren and Elder Ji Xing, who Elder Zuo Wu mentioned, have an unusual relationship. Warden Liang said, in Elder Yaren's text message, Elder Ji Xing calls Elder Yaren, Little Yaya. What do you think Elder Yaren calls Elder Ji Xing? Audjua was stunned. Chapter 676. Audjua didn't have the guts to think any further, this was too dirty. How could 2 men address each other like that? Gay inside gay. Audjua's face inexplicably turned red, and when Warden Liang saw this, he couldn't help glancing at the cooling talisman in the office. Nowadays, for the sake of environmental protection, they didn't even use air conditioning anymore, and directly used talismans to lower the temperature. At that moment, it was very obvious that the cooling talisman was working normally as it emitted a light blue talisman light on the wall. One cooling talisman could be used for 72 hours, Warden Liang scratched the back of his head. He wondered why Director Zhua's face had suddenly turned so red, since it wasn't like he had used a cooling talisman in the office. Old Zhua, what are you thinking about? Warden Liang's expression was a little strange, and he snapped his fingers in front of Audjua's face. After coming back to his senses, Audjua looked at Warden Liang. How does Elder Yaren address Elder Ji Xing? Oh, you're thinking of this? Warden Liang chuckled. Elder Ji Xing calls him Little Yaya, so of course Elder Yaren calls him Little Xingxing. Audjua lowered his head in shame. As expected, he was too dirty. There's a lot of information in this Elder Yaren's communication device. Although a lot of the information is encrypted and in the process of being deciphered, the amount of information we've analyzed so far is already enormous. Warden Liang took a sip of tea and analyzed all the information he knew. According to our information, in the Demon Hunters Association's master plan for tomorrow, there will be a total of 15 overseas cultivators who have studied ninjutsu from Sun Island participating in the operation. 10, 15. He raised his eyebrows. It felt like this was a suicide mission. For some reason, Audjua suddenly felt inexplicably worried about the futures of these 15 people. Actually, from the moment Audjua heard about this so-called Demon Hunters Association revenge plan, he hadn't thought much of it at all. Because he was well aware that his Shifu was at number 60 high, so he couldn't be any safer. There was no safer place in the world than number 60 high school. Although the outside world was now spreading all sorts of alarmist talk and even targeting him, Audrey didn't care at all. From the very beginning, Audrey hadn't been worried about number 60 high's safety. On the contrary, it was grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and the others, who had previously come into contact with the Demon Hunters Association, who made him feel a little on edge. And old Chua, among these 15 people, that elder Ji Xing is the mastermind behind this incident. This time, the other side was completely prepared. Although I said that I called you over to share the information that I've obtained so far, I actually still want to tell you. After a moment of silence, Warden Liang said, I suggest that you don't go online for the time being. I've read the comments online. Are they very unpleasant to hear? Chua smiled. Actually, Chua didn't believe that it was the parents of number 60 high school who were cursing online. He felt that it was more likely that it was the water army arranged by his local colleagues. It was normal to have competition in the workplace. As the saying went, a tall tree attracts the wind. His rapid rise in the last few months had definitely made people envious. Now that this had happened, it wouldn't be strange at all for someone to target him. Old secretary, what do you think? Chua suddenly asked. In contrast, he was more concerned about Secretary Dakong's opinion. Recently, Secretary Dakong had been very busy planning the summer camp for Songhai City's schools in Beast King's remains. Furthermore, the Demon Hunters Association's revenge plan had only come to light in the last few days, and Chua himself hadn't reported it to Secretary Dakong yet. What opinion can the old secretary have? Of course he has to comply with the will of the people. He said that even if it's his people, he won't tolerate it. Then, Warden Liang took a sip of tea. How fragrant. Chua, you're in this position at such a young age. If something happens, someone will definitely target you. He promoted you back then, but now you've completely disgraced him. He said that you have to be punished. After saying that, Warden Liang took another sip of tea. How fragrant. Chua smiled bitterly. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Everyone knew that one of Secretary Dakong's biggest characteristics was that he was protective of his own people, especially those of his own faction. Back when Evil Sword God had been arrested, General Yi had been looking for Chua to talk to him. If it hadn't been for this old secretary stopping him back then, Chua was well aware that given General Yi's methods, he would have very quickly traced it back to his Shifu. On the surface, Warden Liang had asked Chua to come over this time to share information. But in fact, Chua was well aware that this was Warden Liang conveying the old secretary's intentions. Chua was now in the teeth of the storm, so it was reasonable for the old secretary to avoid suspicion for the time being and not have any direct contact with him. Although Warden Liang was just a messenger, he was also very astute. It was impossible for him to express the old secretary's intentions directly, otherwise he would definitely become a laughing stock if someone heard him. This was simply sharing information and chatting, in passing to convey the old secretary's intentions. On the side, the secretary pouring tea had a calm expression on his face, but there were a few drops of cold sweat on his cheeks. The corners of his mouth twitched. Could the two of you be any more obvious? Chua and Warden Liang weren't stupid. From the moment they had entered the office, Chua had already sensed a slight fluctuation in Warden Liang's little eyes. It was very obvious that he had something to tell Chua. What else did he say? The old secretary isn't going to express any opinion on what the outside world is saying. He's decided to let you fend for yourself. Even if you step down in the end, it has nothing to do with him. Warden Liang continued to drink his tea. How fragrant. Chua, Warden Liang, oh, that's right. Apart from this, the old secretary also hopes that you can take your time with this matter. The slower you handle it, the better. Otherwise, you might as well not handle it at all, and just wait for your death. Chua nodded and took a sip of the tea in his hand. This tea is really fragrant. The secretary, when they left Songhai First Prison, Warden Liang saw Chua off. don't forget to come and try my sweet potato wine later. As Songhai First Prison's current strategic partner, Warden Liang could afford to pay for this wine. This 800-year-old sweet potato wine wasn't something an ordinary person could drink. It was a precious brew from his hometown, and he had haggled with his fellow townsmen for a long time before he was able to buy it. Jua, Cheng, Warden Liang rested his elbow on the window. Oh, that's right, old Jua, do you know what nickname the outside world has given you now? Jua, what nickname? Chapter 677. After saying goodbye to Warden Liang, Jua's next job was to work with Zhong Lang to pacify the parents. In the end, he still had to deal with this matter directly, otherwise his colleagues in the outside world who were intent on messing with him would start pushing the blame onto him. Most of the time, netizens were like this. They liked to join in on the fun and completely disregarded the logic and consequences of the matter itself. Just because he hadn't been able to apprehend President Bai, the blame for the Demon Hunters Association's revenge plan against number 60 high school this time was entirely on him. Jua really didn't know where to start. Actually, this was a little similar to something that had happened online not long ago. A little girl wanted to jump off a building, and not only did more than 100 people below not dissuade her, they even started mocking her, asking her when she could jump and how she shouldn't get in the way of the police and firefighters if she didn't want to jump. In the end, the girl, who couldn't feel the last trace of warmth in the world, chose to directly commit suicide. This is a very, very tragic thing. At the same time, it was also very chilling. This reminded Jua of a line he had read online. I've never been afraid to speculate on the worst of Hua Nation's melon-eating citizens, but I didn't expect or believe that they would be this cruel. Of course, Jua often preferred to think on the bright side. Sometimes, it wasn't the good people who turned bad, but the bad people who grew old. Those who lived cowardly lives in the cracks would often arm themselves with another attitude on the internet and become strong. Thus, this group of people might be the same kind of people as the online mob. This time, it was Jua's personal driver who picked him up in the car that Zhong Lang had driven back to the general administration of 100 schools. On the way, Jua sent Director Shi a text message to request that he personally make a home visit to the Wang family's small villa. He knew that his Shifu didn't like trouble, so he simply took the matter on himself for now. Whether he would go or not would be another matter. Elsewhere, at number 60 high school after school, Wang Ling and the other students in class received the news of the home visit. It looked very serious, because Wang Ling had heard that Headmaster Chen was going to attend a conference in another city today, but in the end had come back to the school halfway to direct work. The ultimate goal was the Demon Hunters Association's revenge plan. The class was in the middle of a heated discussion, and Dopigua started a wave of heated discussion. Although Wang Ling didn't know the specifics of this plan, it at least explained the reason for his eyelid warning. Overall, it was more or less what he had guessed. The only difference was that he hadn't expected the Demon Hunters Association to be so ruthless this time. Not only was he targeting Jua, but he also wanted to directly retaliate against number 60 high school. One of my uncles in the police station told me that the Demon Hunters Association seems to be organizing a group to take revenge on our school. It's said that not a single teacher or student will be spared, said Dopigua. This reminded him of a famous Chinese jungler's classic line, I want them all. They came prepared this time, but it seems like the plan didn't go smoothly. It seems like before they attacked our school, 3 of their main forces were already captured. I heard that they were all caught on the way to deal with Senior Jua. So this is even worse than shadow streams. Super Chen was alarmed. Do you think this bunch of people will all die before they can even enter our number 60 high school's main gate? Wang Ling felt that this might really happen. Super Chen's mouth had been blessed before. I don't think so. Dopigua broke out in a sweat. In any case, the people organized by the Demon Hunters Association this time are all elites, and their overall strength is who knows how many levels higher than shadow streams back then. They shouldn't be so unlucky. Also, There's not much time left until tomorrow. Since the school already knows about the plan, why haven't they suspended classes? You know our headmaster, if he knew that the other party wasn't a threat to our school, he wouldn't have applied to suspend classes. When Shadow Stream came, they didn't stop classes either, right? Dopey spread his hands. But I heard that the headmaster is also having a headache now. What do you mean? Asked Little Peanut. Since the start of the semester, there's been a lot of trouble at our school. Now, a lot of parents from other classes have started to apply to drop out of school and transfer to other schools. Dopey said, go take a look at number 59 high school's forum and you'll know. They're so happy, the headmaster directly issued a notice on the enrollment of transfer students. Everyone. Was it really that real? So didn't the headmaster send out a notice asking the teachers in charge of each class to coordinate with the teachers to conduct home visits overnight? Dopey replied. Hearing this, everyone suddenly understood. If it hadn't been for Dopey's gossip, they wouldn't have been able to connect the dots. So this was the truth of the matter. Everyone instantly felt reassured, because the reason for the home visits wasn't because of exam results or anything like that, but because of the school's safety. In some sense, number 60 High was taking the Demon Hunters Association incident so seriously because they didn't want any parents to cause a wave of students to drop out of school at this critical juncture. No. 60 High was now on the cusp of being promoted to a key high school. If they were made a fool of at this time, it would definitely be a huge blow to their reputation. However, looking at how lively the school was currently, no school had been more lively than number 60 High in all of Peiyuan District in the last few months. Other schools had exams every other day. As for number 60 High, apart from exams every other day, there was also something going on every other day. Do you think that Senior Jua is hiding his strength? Dopey suddenly asked when everyone was about to leave the classroom. What do you mean? Think about it. The outside world has always said that Senior Jua is at the Golden Core stage, but the enemy he's facing now clearly isn't someone at the Golden Core stage, Dopey said. So I'm guessing that Senior Jua is hiding his strength. That must be it. Not necessarily, maybe it's the Shifu behind Senior Jua who has made a move. Isn't it always said online that Senior Jua has a Shifu? Super Chin said. Wang Ling, Super Chin, there are so many experts in this world, our number 60 High definitely has experts too. Don't look at our teachers, maybe one of them is a big shot. Wang Ling, Super Chin, and I've always had a strong feeling that there's a big shot in our class. Chapter 678. Wang Ling had already found out through text messages that Jua was coming for a home visit, and felt that Jua had really handled the situation quite wittily this time. Knowing that number 60 high school was coming for a home visit, Wang Ling had simply accepted the job first, otherwise the atmosphere would be really awkward if Teacher Pan really came to visit. Suddenly, Wang Ling had the urge to give Jua a red packet. Of course, this red packet didn't refer to money. Wang Ling didn't have that much money, and Father Wang would find a way to dock his allowance. What this red packet actually referred to was equipment. Jua's current outfit was a little terrible. Furthermore, after this incident, Wang Ling was deeply aware that he couldn't just let Jua take the blame for him outside. This blame wasn't bad, but the quality of this blame itself had to be strong enough. The enemy's hail of bullets now was really too fierce. If things continued like this, sooner or later Jua wouldn't be able to withstand it. Thus, Wang Ling felt that he should solve the problem at its core, and upgrade this cheap disciple of his inside and out. Although it had only been a few months since Jua had become Wang Ling's disciple, he had taken the blame for Wang Ling a lot over the years. Even if he didn't have any meritorious service, he had still put in a lot of hard work. Because of this incident, Wang Ling had seen a lot of negative news about Jua online. As his Shifu, Wang Ling himself didn't feel too good about it. There were actually people who thought Jua's realm was too low. When Wang Ling saw that comment, he took a deep breath, from that moment on, he had already decided to create a tailor-made cultivation technique for Audjua. It would help him cultivate faster. Audjua's talent was actually already high enough, at least in terms of cultivation. He was more talented than most people Wang Ling had ever met. It had to be said that while Audjua's current position was a scapegoat for Wang Ling, he had cultivated to the golden core stage before entering university. That was entirely his own ability. And the most important thing was that Audjua rarely took pills. He was completely different from those rich kids who used tonics to forcibly increase their realms. Audjua had his own ability. He had never objected to this point. So in some sense, Wang Ling indeed felt that this disciple of his was very outstanding. When Audjua entered, there wasn't the slightest ripple in the Wang family's small villa. Number 60 High School had already sent a text message to Father and Mother Wang saying that they would send a teacher for a home visit to discuss some of the recent negative news about Number 60 High School, but when Father and Mother Wang learned that it was Audjua, the couple sitting on the sofa heaved long sighs of relief. Since Wang Ling had started school, the couple hadn't even gone to a parent-teacher conference. The most recent one had been attended by grenade-throwing senior immortal. So when he heard that he was going to see his teacher, he felt a little nervous. Mother Wang and Father Wang sat up on the sofa with a bang. Mother Wang, I'll go cook. Father Wang, I'll go write. Wang Ling, Audjua. When Mother Wang walked into the kitchen, she didn't forget to look at Audjua. Little Zhuzi, stay here tonight and eat something. To be honest, Audjua was a little touched in his heart. This was purely treating him as one of their own. Wang Ling placed the cultivation technique which he had specially tailored for Audjua in his room on the table. It was called 33-Path Primordial Qi, and was a small derivative of a branch of Great Heavenly Tao. Even so, it went without saying how precious it was. Since it had something to do with Heavenly Tao, if it was divided into heaven, earth, black, and yellow, it would definitely belong to the heaven-level category. Furthermore, this technique couldn't be bought in the outside world at all. That was because when Wang Ling gave it to Audjua, he would tailor it to suit Audjua's condition. With this technique, Audjua's cultivation speed would increase by leaps and bounds, because this 33-Path Primordial Qi itself was a technique which could accelerate the circulation of spirit energy in the body. The circulation of spirit energy was like a person's metabolism. The faster it circulated, the faster one's realm would change. Audjua had never expected that his Shifu would actually give him such a generous gift when he visited today. When he took the small exercise book from Wang Ling, his hands trembled, even though the packaging of this technique was a little crude, and it was the kind of exercise book used by students. The name of the technique was also unpretentiously written on the back of the lessons column in the exercise book. But when Audjua opened the exercise book, he could clearly see the things to pay attention to in cultivating this technique, as well as the most detailed explanations of each segment. And the most important thing was that Wang Ling had written all of this by hand. This thing was so precious that Audjua trembled all over with excitement, and he almost stuck out his tongue and fainted on the spot. At that moment, he deeply felt that he hadn't taken the blame for all these years in vain. Sure enough, if he followed Shifu Wang Ling, he would have meat to eat. Of course, what Audjua never expected was that this wasn't the only bomb his Shifu had dropped. After receiving the exercise book, Audjua immediately saw Wang Ling open the second exercise book, which was filled with all kinds of magic artifacts. Audjua was startled. What did this mean? There were so many magic artifacts. Was he allowed to choose? GG. This was a king bomb. While Audjua was making a home visit to the Wang family. On the other side, a lot of people in the military tent sighed. This time, their Demon Hunters Association had actually lost 3 overseas returnee generals. As the chief commander of the revenge plan, Elder Ji Xing really couldn't escape the blame. But in the end, they still had to wait until the operation was over before they could seek President Bai's forgiveness. Right now, the first thing they had to consider was the big plan tomorrow, and then they had to think of a way to organize people to snatch Elder Yarn back. According to Elder Ji Xing's speculation, Elder Yaren was now in a half-dead state, which was why his soul mark was flickering. Now, excluding Elder Ming Ren, who was still giving Nine Tails psychotherapy, in the entire military tent, including himself, there were only 11 people left in the Demon Hunters Association's available fighting strength. Elder Ji Xing dropped his forehead into his hand, feeling that this wasn't an ordinary headache. Getting drunk solves 1,000 worries. How about a drink? Chapter 679. Ah Chua opened the exercise book and looked at his Shifu Wang Ling's handwriting. The explanation of the technique was even more detailed than a textbook's. Although 33-path primordial chi was a very small branch of magic, it was still part of the 3,000 great spells, and the 3,000 great spells were something that had been branded in Wang Ling's mind like an instinct as he continued to grow. This technique actually wasn't very useful to Wang Ling himself, but it was a huge help to Ah Jua. In addition to speeding up the circulation of spirit energy, he could also use this technique to store spirit energy in the golden core inside his body. This reserve was like a reservoir. When he urgently needed spirit energy, he could open the floodgates at any time and release the spirit energy in the reservoir for his own use. Although he had only skimmed through it, Ah Jua was already deeply aware of how powerful this technique was. For the golden core stage, none of the similar techniques on the market could compare to this one, and were more suitable for Ah Jua to cultivate. He could only say that as expected of his Shifu. Ah Jua suddenly felt that his shameless decision to acknowledge Wang Ling as his Shifu back then had been the right one. Apart from the technique, Ah Jua also saw something else, the magic weapons listed in the second book by Wang Ling. Finally, apart from Long Johns and Long Johns, he could also have other protective magic treasures. Reading this, Ah Jua couldn't help feeling excited. The magic weapons listed in the second exercise book had also been carefully selected by Wang Ling. These were the most suitable magic weapons for Ah Jua at this stage, and basically, they were all magic treasures to save his life. The first magic weapon on the first page was the 5-star recommended Thunderous 9,000 boots. Reading this, Ah Jua couldn't help staring blankly. Somehow, he felt that the name of these boots was a little familiar. What did these boots have to do with the 3,000 Thunderous 9,000 spells? Of course, it wasn't just these boots, there were also many different styles of Taoist robes, undergarments, and even underwear. Ah Jua, Wang Ling stared at Ah Jua and raised his eyebrows slightly, meaning that Ah Jua could choose whatever he wanted. After he was done, he would look for the heavenly Tao to trade for materials, and then use the recipe for the 8 classes of divine weapons to forge something. It was rare for him to be this generous. Because right now, there really wasn't anyone more suitable than Ah Jua to be his scapegoat, hence, Ah Jua had to be kept safe. Although this disciple was cheap, Wang Ling had already decided to give him the most expensive set of equipment in order to make him last. From then on, Ah Jua would no longer be Ah Jua. Instead, it was an upgraded Ah Jua. While Ah Jua was choosing his self-defense equipment, Father Wang was also fighting on the other side. This matter had actually happened not long ago, and it was a rather vexing and infuriating matter. The love song, the Starry Skies Language of Love, that Father Wang had written for Mother Wang had been stolen by an extremely popular online live streamer. The other party downloaded the song privately and re-uploaded it to his homepage. He claimed that it was his own work and openly lip-synced it. The most important thing was that the fans of the streamer were actually clapping and cheering. They did not find anything strange about it at all. This infuriated Father Wang. He had written this song for Mother Wang. And the most important thing was that this singer's voice had clearly been sung by grenade-throwing senior immortal, so how had it been stolen? No matter how much Father Wang thought about it, he couldn't figure it out. Online warfare was trending nowadays, and Father Wang had only fought against anti-fans on the novel platform before, so he wasn't afraid at all. In the end, the battlefield had to be transferred to the live streaming platform, which left Father Wang a little bewildered. Thus, after the incident, Father Wang's first reaction was to seek help from his novel's fan group. Although there was a hidden big shot in the fan group who had been lurking all year round, who had sent him cigars and fought for the monthly votes, this had just happened, and Father Wang didn't want to directly ask this big shot to make a move. The main thing was that Father Wang wanted to test how fierce his other novel fans were. If he didn't say anything about the book he had written for his wife being stolen, would he still be human? Thus, Father Wang made an official announcement in the fan group. Regarding Wolf Fang live streaming platform, Shadow Fool's live streamer singers institution, our side's attitude, will not tolerate this. Fans, please support us. What? Wang Situ's song was stolen. Is it the latest, The Starry Sky's Language of Love? That's right, brother Wang Situ wrote this song for sister-in-law, and Wang Situ wrote the lyrics. In the end, this shameless live streamer stole the song and even said he sang it. Look, I have a video here. Several fans immediately replied below. Father Wang was stunned. He had just announced this matter today. How did so many people know about it already? And the most frightening thing was that someone had actually recorded it. Father Wang immediately replied in the group, "Brother, you're good." This fan immediately replied, "When I heard this song, I thought it was very familiar, and then I immediately realized that it was brother Wang Situ's song. At the time, I was still wondering how a live streamer could sing exactly the same as the original song, and even the aura and vibrato were completely restored. That was too amazing." After that, I tipped this live streamer 1000 HNY and asked him to sing it again. This time, I recorded it. After this fan said this, the fan group directly exploded, "Damn, brother, you're good. Pass 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 pass. Then this is the evidence, right? It's real." Father Wang nodded. This video can indeed be used as evidence, but it's not enough at the moment. We need to find a professional organization to do some audio and sound comparisons. Apart from that, what I understand here is that this live streamer has a criminal record. Last year, it was revealed that he had lip-synced and stolen songs. Then what does Lord Wang Situ mean? Father Wang sent a short video of him slitting his neck. Then, he sent a message in the group, "Screw him. Everyone, Father Wang, there are a lot of lip-syncing videos in his live stream room. You can use the music software's voice recognition function to compare the lip-syncing videos to the original singer. Then, take a video of this guy lip-syncing and send it to me along with the original music. I'll get someone to do an identification." At that moment, someone asked, Is there a reward?" Father Wang laughed. "Anyone who submits evidence to me will get 10 updates." Everyone was shocked. Sure enough. Chapter 680. You wouldn't die if you didn't court death. This saying wasn't false at all. Some people were born to live, but others were born to court death. This lip-syncing live streamer Singers Institute had a previous record of stealing songs. This time, he was up to his old tricks to deceive the audience once again, and his behavior was truly outrageous. Even so, there was still a group of audience members who had been fooled into giving him gifts to support him. This incident reminded Father Wang of a skit called "Selling Crutches." It turned out that there really were people in this world who would pay the other person back after being cheated. They had been duped by this bad live streamer in a flash. Actually, it wasn't that Father Wang couldn't understand the behavior of these fans. It was very clear that most of these fans who desperately supported their idols might also be diehard in reality, and were unwilling to admit that they had followed the wrong idol. In most cases, it was their idols who ultimately paid the price for their fans' actions. Especially when the idols were unwilling to admit that they were wrong, the effect of protecting them to the death was even more frightening. Relying on lip-syncing the song, The Starry Sky's Language of Love, in the live stream room, this live streamer had gained a large number of fans. Father Wang had yet to officially announce this song to the public. Although it had already been uploaded on the music platform, the music video was in fact still in the production stage, and it was still pending release on the platform. Furthermore, Father Wang had only released an audio recording in his fan group. But Father Wang hadn't expected that this audio recording would actually be stolen by this intentional live streamer. This was the most unlucky thing about this live streamer. This song-stealing live streamer, Singers Institute, probably couldn't have imagined that this online song, which couldn't be found online, was written by a guru in the author circle for his wife. And now, this live streamer was about to be bombarded by Father Wang's attack on Pingan City to save his wife Xiuqin. At 6:00 in the evening, Wolf Fang live streaming platform's live streamer, Singers Institute, was about to start a live stream. Wolf Fang live streaming platform was a live streaming platform that was about to go public. Not only did it have a large fan base, it also had a lot of daily users. Of course, it was still a level lower than Daoist Guang's Cultivation live streaming network, which was recognized as the #1 live streaming platform on the internet. However, most of the live broadcasts of the Cultivation Live Broadcasting Network are outdoor and game programs. Programs like singing are not popular on such a live broadcasting network. In contrast, the entertainment industry of the Wolf Fang Live Broadcasting platform is much more developed. Each platform had its own unique characteristics. This was also a way for the platforms to compete with each other. When Father Wang was stuck, he liked to watch live streams for inspiration. That funny female live streamer Little Xian from before was on the Cultivation live streaming network. Although Father Wang had his own Big Shot account on almost all the live streaming platforms, he spent the most time and gave the most gifts on the Cultivation live streaming network. The battlefield this time was on Wolf Fang live streaming platform. To be honest, Father Wang really didn't know what to do at first. After all, the enemy's battlefield was different. But now, the collective brainpower of the fans gave Father Wang a lot of confidence. When he went on the air that night, the anchor wore a half mask as usual, covering the upper half of his face. Visually, he looked a little more mysterious, and it also covered his sunken nose bridge and his big nose, which was like a garlic clove. Yang Zhong stood in front of the mirror and put on his mask. He looked at himself in the mirror through the mask. His entire person seemed to be different. Even his spirit was different. He immediately straightened his back and became radiant with energy. It was as if this mask could completely bury his hypocrisy, vanity, and rotten spirit, and achieve the suggestive effect of brainwashing. No one knew what kind of person this half-masked little brother who looked pretty good was, and no one knew what kind of ugly appearance he had under the mask. Before the official live broadcast, Yang Zhong used his Singers Institute live streamer account to investigate the data in the background. Because he had lip-synced the Starry Skies Language of Love to the camera the day before, he hadn't expected that when he opened the data in the background today, his overall data would soar. His fans had increased by 30,000. His subscriptions had increased by 100,000. The most important thing was the gifts he had received in the live stream room. His earnings from lip-syncing this song were actually more than his total earnings in a month. It had only been a few days. Yang Zhong stared at the data in the background and could not help but feel excited. He had not gone to the computer today, and this data made Yang Zhong very happy. Just as he was about to start the live broadcast, Yang Zhong received a call from his guild. It was a call from Lang Bei, the president of his guild, Shadow Fool. Yang Zhong picked up the phone and President Lang Bei smiled from ear to ear. Little Yang, you did well. You actually earned 300,000 the day before yesterday. More than you earned in a month in the past. Ha 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 ha. Yang Zhong laughed. I found this audio by accident. It's quite similar to the voice of the substitute singer I found before. The name of this audio file is the Starry Skies Language of Love, but I searched it online and didn't find this song. It was probably accidentally leaked by some singer. That's great. Since it hasn't been released on the platform, let's release this song and say that it's ours. Sure. Anyway, no one has released it now. Even if it's brought up in the end, we have the advantage in time. We have the initiative now. If we find an album company to release it first, no one will be able to sue us. Yang Zhong laughed sinisterly in his heart. In this era of the fan economy, it was really too easy to earn money from fans, which made him feel incomparably happy. He had earned a lot in the last 2 days, and Yang Zhong had a very strong feeling that he was going to be popular. In all his years of live broadcasting, he had never had such a strong premonition. After the call, Yang Zhong sat back in his seat, turned on the camera, and turned on the beautifying function to the maximum. He then adjusted the angle of his crazy mic to cover his Adam's apple. Because the throat hardly moved when lip-syncing, it would be very easy for people to notice if his entire neck was exposed. I wonder how much money I can make today. Yang Zhong smiled and clicked the Start Live Broadcast button. As he had expected, the number of people in the live broadcast room began to soar. Then he glanced at the bullet screen. Netizen, captain of Wang Situ's detonation team, light incense. Netizen, platoon leader of Wang Situ's detonation team, light incense, light incense. The live streamer is dead. Netizen, company commander of Wang Situ's detonation team, incense warning. Netizen, company commander of Wang Situ's detonation team, pour a bottle of sweet potato wine to comfort the soul of the deceased live streamer in heaven. Chapter 681. What was going on? Yang Zhong hadn't expected to be attacked by a water army as soon as he went live today. The question was, where had this water army come from? Could it be that a guild war had started again? Guild wars were very common in the live streamer circle, especially in the entertainment industry of live streaming platforms. In order to consolidate their power, various guilds had signed a lot of singers in the channel to form a team. It was also common for singers from different teams to arm wrestle with each other behind the scenes. Shadow Fool Guild had a lot of hostile guilds in Wolf Fang's live streaming circle, so Yang Zhong guessed that it was most likely the other guilds who had become envious after seeing the profits from his live streaming yesterday and had hired a water army to attack him. Wang Situ. Who was Wang Situ? Was there such a singer? He had never even heard of him. Just as Yang Zhong was feeling very puzzled, President Lang Bei sent a message in the chat group. Because the numbers in the live stream room had grown too abnormally today, the number of people who had been watching the live stream room before the live stream had already exceeded tens of thousands. If it was a hired water army, there would usually only be a few hundred of them, and only 100 or so people would repeatedly leave negative comments on the bullet screen. It would be over if they were all banned. But now, tens of thousands of people were besieging the live stream room. Only Commander Li Yunlong had seen this kind of situation when he had attacked Pingan district, so the question was, who on earth was this Wang Situ? In the chat group, Lang Bei asked anxiously, what's going on? Who is this Wang Situ? Under his mask, Yang Zhong frowned and a drop of cold sweat rolled down his cheek as he quickly replied, I just looked at the bullet screen and guessed that it might be a fan of the original owner of the audio who came to our live stream room to blow it up. Hearing this, Lang Bei was startled. Such a coincidence. They had only mentioned the audio before the live stream, and after hanging up the phone, President Lang Bei had already arranged for a company that specialized in releasing music to release the song online for a limited time. Seeing that the number of people in the live stream room was going to exceed 500,000 in the 5 minutes he had been streaming, Yang Zhong suddenly panicked. What do we do now? He was just a small live streamer who couldn't sing, so he had to buy other people's dry voices to lip-sync his fans. Yang Zhong had thought about the day when he would be exposed, but he hadn't expected it to come so soon. Therefore, Yang Zhong felt a little overwhelmed in the face of such a huge commotion. Calm down the fans in the live streaming room. Ban them when they need to. I'll arrange for someone to upload the song as soon as possible. Since this song has never been released on the internet, we'll be in the right if we release it first. President Lang Bei was thinking of a solution. Didn't we have a singer helping us before? Contact him and ask him to sing this song without any accompaniment. Record his voice. You can lip-sync it in the live broadcast room. Remember to act like it. Don't get caught. Yang Zhong nodded. Okay. The conversation with President Lang Bei was interrupted. Zhong Lang contacted the singer who had lip-synced for him. He had been so flustered that he had almost forgotten that he still had this trump card up his sleeve. And this singer was none other than Tang Yuning, the popular singer who sang Old Boys a while ago. The vagrant singer whom he had helped in Boss Tan's late-night dining hall. Brother Tang. I have a song here, can you sing it for me? Yang Zhong sent a message to Tang Yuning. On the other side, Tang Yuning fell silent after receiving another message from Yang Zhong. After a long while, he typed out 2 words, again. Yang Zhong thought for a bit before replying, Brother Tang, this really is the last time. I won't sing anymore, I'm going to become a talk show live streamer. You know my family's circumstances. My dad is bedridden, and my mom passed away not long after I was born. I have a younger brother at home, and I need to pay for his schooling. We've known each other for a while, can't you help me one last time? Tang Yuning was silent. But after you were exposed, you swore to the audience and your fans that you wouldn't steal any more songs and lip sync. Was all that fake? Brother Tang. Your voice is really similar to the voice of the singer of the audio I found recently. As long as we don't say anything, no one will know. This really is the last time. Yang Zhong knew that this was a serious matter. If Tang Yuning didn't help him this time, his acting career would be over. Apologize? There was no way he would apologize. In the previous incident, he had already apologized once. Yang Zhong clearly remembered that he had told the audience that in the future, the works he would perform in the live broadcasts would all be his own works. He would no longer borrow the music of other artists and would no longer disappoint those who liked him. He was not a hypocrite. If something happened today and he couldn't withstand the pressure to apologize, then his future would be ruined. Although he had already looked for Tang Yuning and told him that he wouldn't bother him anymore, Yang Zhong really felt that he had reached a dead end. Brother Tang, you have to help me with this matter. Yang Zhong made another request. I know you're on the rise now, but before, Brother Tang. You have to remember that when you were a street singer, I specially supported you. And before that, I also left some screenshots of our transactions. Tang Yuning smiled. Are you threatening me? Yang Zhong, no, not threatening. I'm begging, Tang Yuning gritted his teeth. I chose to help you back then because I knew your family was in trouble and I didn't have any money. If I really wanted your money, I would have directly split the profits with you for the live stream, instead of selling you 50 HNY for a cappella. Tang Yuning was truly furious, he hadn't expected Yang Zhong to threaten him like this. Relying on his own voice, Yang Zhong had become popular online, gained popularity and fans. Now, Yang Zhong actually didn't hesitate to use their previous transaction records to threaten him and help him deceive the audience. How could there be such a person in the world? Tang Yuning was so angry that he directly closed the chat window and hung up on his phone. He had a lot of benefactors, but not Yang Zhong. For Tang Yuning, his benefactors were late-night dining hall's owner, Boss Tan, and the youngster who had sold him a song at a low price back then and his father, but now, Tang Yuning himself was in deep trouble because of Yang Zhong. The moment he was threatened by Yang Zhong, Tang Yuning realized that things couldn't go on like this. Chapter 682. Tang Yuning had already endured this for a long time. He had always indulged Yang Zhong, but in the end, the other party had turned into an ingrate who would only reach out to him out of habit. This was something that Tang Yuning could never accept or forgive. Tang Yuning had heard many stories about the farmer and the snake, but he had never thought that one day it would actually happen to him. Yang Zhong had almost driven him crazy in the last few months. This wasn't the first time Yang Zhong had humbly begged him, but it was the first time he had used blackmail to ask him to help him deceive an audience. Tang Yuning felt that he had been too muddle-headed to actually help this kind of person. Tang Yuning got up from his computer and looked at himself in the mirror. Fatigue was written all over his face, and he had a scraggly beard and messy hair. He was already completely different from the street-wandering singer Tang Yuning who had relied purely on his work to survive. This wasn't the look Tang Yuning wanted, this was the look of the kind of person he had once hated the most. After the song, Old Boys, became popular, Tang Yuning had been constantly tormented and struggling in his heart because of Yang Zhong, and hadn't gone out for a very long time. But just now, Tang Yuning already had an answer. He used a small razor to shave his beard clean, and shaved his hair, leaving a clean buzz cut. Then he took out his phone and dialed his agent's number. "Brother Tian? I think I understand." Hearing the voice, the agent was blank for a moment before he heaved a long sigh of relief. "It's good that you understand. I've decided to expose him." "All right. That's for the best." This, Brother Tian, nodded. "I've long found that Singers Institute an eyesore. They sing every day with half an S&M mask on, it's like they're giving a philosophy concert." Tang Yuning, elsewhere, in Father Wang's fan group, fans were complaining about the front-line battlefield one after another. A lot of fans were furious when they heard that Father Wang's, the Starry Sky's language of love, had been stolen, and they formed groups to blow things up one after another. A lot of people had registered several accounts, but they hadn't started cursing, they had only asked if the live streamer had stolen the song, and had been directly banned by the moderator for 7 days. Now, the fan group was full of complaints. Some of the enemy fans were really too scary, and they were too protective of their owner. As the saying went, what kind of person would have what kind of fans? Father Wang had done a search on this live streamer before. After being exposed for lip-syncing last year, he initially denied it in all sorts of ways. In the end, he couldn't withstand the pressure of public opinion and was forced to apologize to the public. For those who had experienced this before, the skin of Singers Institute was probably thicker than the city walls. Simply going to their live stream to question them would not give them any advantage at all. Father Wang opened Singers Institute's live stream room. When he had watched it yesterday, the number of people online had still been around 30,000. In the end, after he announced this matter in his fan group, the number of people in this guy's live stream room was now almost breaking 600,000. Hee, the fighting power of my fans is still quite strong. Father Wang was delighted in his heart as he casually scrolled through the bullet messages in the live stream room. A few fans with the nameplates of Dean defended him one after another. How could our Dean lip sync? Otherwise, how could he explain his previous a cappella singing? Was it lip syncing as well? Don't mislead the new audience. Father Wang, so what if you lip sync? I like the Dean because I like to see him flirt with girls, but I don't like to listen to him sing. What does lip syncing and stealing songs have to do with me? I'm not listening, tortoise chanting scriptures. Father Wang, why are there so many water armies today? With all due respect, what on earth is this Wang Situ? I've never heard of this singer before. Is he here to leech off our Dean's popularity? The corners of Father Wang's mouth were already twitching uncontrollably. This was really going too far. He was the Grand Cultivation Chinese Network's top guru, did he need to leech off a small singer's popularity? But what left Father Wang even more speechless was yet to come. At that moment, the administrator typed in the public screen, Dean's throat isn't feeling well today, so he won't be singing in the live stream today. He'll take a short break and chat with everyone. If you have any songs you want to listen to, you can leave a message on the public screen first. I'll record them down and Dean will sing them to compensate everyone later in the live stream. It was very obvious that this was a delaying tactic. Because there were too many people in the live stream room now, the other party was worried that he would give himself away while singing in front of so many people. If they caught any loopholes in this thing, there would definitely be no way to explain himself. Thus, Father Wang concluded that the other party definitely wanted to use this method to gloss over today's live stream, and then take his time to think about it after the live stream. And the most frightening thing was that these fans in the live stream room actually believed him. Sob sob sob, great Dean, rest well, I love listening to you sing the most. If your throat isn't good, don't sing, we all understand. Heavens! Great Dean's throat was kissed by an angel. He'll definitely be fine. Drink more hot water. Looking at these bullet messages, Father Wang was so angry he almost spat out blood. There were really too many fans who had been deceived. Even if his song hadn't been stolen, Father Wang felt that he had to take this matter seriously. He couldn't let this kind of person continue to get away with it. Father Wang said in the fan group, "Can anyone find out the real identity of this live streamer? Just his name and phone number will do. I'll give you 10 minutes in exchange." Less than 10 seconds after he said that, a fan called Eggy's Sorrow in the fan group immediately replied, Yang Zhong, male, 176 centimeters tall, phone number 1391888XXXXX, address, Lane 872 Yunmen West Road, Songhai City, bloody hell, Brother Egg, you found someone just like that? A lot of the fans cried out in surprise. It wasn't until that moment that Father Wang realized that there really was a hidden big shot in his fan group, how much time had passed, and he had even found out the address. Just as the rest of the fans were sighing over this Brother Egg's battle, Brother Egg also replied very modestly, "This is all I can do to help. I actually have an ID card, but this isn't very good. Everyone, don't call this number to harass him, let our big brother communicate with this live streamer first." Okay. No problem. For a moment, a lot of people in the fan group responded. At that moment, someone asked a question, "But Brother Egg, how did you find out all this? Do you have resources?" "Of course I have to keep this a secret." This Brother Egg smiled. "It's mainly because I'm used to investigating people. I have a nephew who sometimes comes to ask me all sorts of questions." "Nephew?" "That's right. His surname is Gua, and he's still in high school." Chapter 683. From the start of the broadcast until now, it had been a full hour. The live broadcast room of Singers Institute had already banned more than 1,000 people. A moderator with the nickname Mr. Li and another Zhang Fei did not care about the consequences. As long as the keywords lip-syncing and theft were mentioned, they would be banned for 7 days. Even some of their own fans who brought their nameplates to inquire about the situation were subjected to the same treatment. Father Wang stared at the live broadcast room speechlessly and helplessly. However, this live streamer didn't seem to be the least bit flustered. That pitch-black half-mask completely concealed the subtle fluctuations in his eyes. Father Wang now seemed to understand a little why this live streamer wore a mask for the live broadcast, because he didn't have a face. An hour into the live broadcast, Father Wang started to see Yang Zhong interact with the fans in the live broadcast room. "So everyone thinks the Starry Sky's Language of Love is a good song. Actually." Father Wang thought that this guy was finally going to find his conscience and apologize, but who knew that the other party would suddenly change his tune. "Actually, it's because the song is well written and I sing it well." "That's right. As the original singer of this song, my singing is really outstanding." Father Wang, "Oh, that's right, I'm going to upload this song to the music platform right away. I hope everyone can download Singers Institute album when the time comes. There's no version of this song on the online platform yet because I haven't uploaded it yet. After we upload the album later, I hope everyone will download it and support us. If you like it, follow and favorite it, then comment on it. NetEase Cloud Music has it. Just search for The Starry Sky's Language of Love directly." Hearing this, Father Wang felt the urge to smash the keyboard for the first time. He hadn't had this thought when he had been stuck, but after hearing the other party's deceptive and somewhat despicable tone, Father Wang was really infuriated. Father Wang himself was also shocked. he couldn't understand how a person could be so thick-skinned. The most important thing was that this guy actually wanted to upload it before him. This guy was probably crazy, this was a blatant infringement. On the side, Lai Mengmeng was also amazed when he saw this. If this person does this, he'll probably be sued, right? Definitely. Father Wang said, the copyright to this song is mine. What he's doing is considered theft. Furthermore, it's for commercial use. If it involves a huge amount of money, I'm afraid he'll have to go to jail for several years. However, I don't think he has the guts to do so alone. I'm afraid that the guild backing him is helping him. Lai Mengmeng nodded. I think so too. This person doesn't look very old. There's no way he would have such guts. Moreover, how many people had been sealed? In Lai Mengmeng's eyes, the two moderators in the live stream room were no different from lunatics. They were basically the kind of people who would ban anyone the moment they appeared, regardless of the circumstances. It didn't matter if you were asking questions from the perspective of a bystander or asking for an explanation from the perspective of a fan, as long as you mentioned this matter, you would be banned. Previously, Lai Mengmeng had opened an account to comment on the live stream, but he had typed a question mark and was banned for 7 days straight away. Really, I've never seen such a shameless person. Lai Mengmeng sighed sincerely. Yeah, this method of denying is really shameless. Compared to my novel's slow update and sloppy word count, I'm practically a clean and refreshing white lotus. Lai Mengmeng, the matter of this live streamer's copyright infringement wasn't over yet, and Father Wang knew that he needed to come up with more forceful methods. The key now was to collect evidence of the other party's copyright infringement as well as to get the relevant copyright certification procedures for the song, The Starry Sky's Language of Love, in place as soon as possible. Given that Father Wang had decided not to use that big shot behind him, this was bound to be a longer battle than usual, and one that would revolve around fans from different circles on both sides. Which side was stronger between fans of the live stream circle and fans of the novel? Father Wang was really looking forward to seeing. On the other side, Audiobook had already picked out a full set of equipment for himself. The shoes, coat, underwear, socks and even underwear he was wearing were all genuine magic treasures, and most importantly, he had never heard of any of them before. It could only be said that Shifu was indeed unconventional, even the magic treasures he used were different from those on the market. Basically all magic treasures now had a magic treasure software app that could be ranked online, but the magic treasures Wang Ling had given him didn't have any information. Wang Ling had picked them out from the original 8 classes of divine weapons. The 8 classes of divine weapons on the market were all incomplete versions, and a lot of the data was incomplete, so they couldn't be used to enter into the magic treasure software at all. Thus, the magic treasures on the original 8 classes of divine weapons couldn't be found in the online magic treasure software at all. After Audiobook had picked out the magic treasures he wanted, Wang Ling silently noted down their names, then put the exercise book away. He would use this exercise book later to exchange materials with the Heavenly Tao to make magic treasures. Furthermore, Wang Ling had deliberately written the handwriting in the exercise book very nicely so that he could trade it with the Heavenly Tao for resources of equal value. Furthermore, there were a lot of magic treasures to make this time, and Wang Ling felt that there might be a lack of materials. He wondered if the Heavenly Tao would accept copies. Wang Ling cupped his chin in contemplation. Heavenly Tao. It was July 25th on Tuesday in the 14th week of the semester. It was the day when the overseas returnee elites of the Demon Hunters Association would attack number 60 High School, but number 60 High School was as calm as ever without the slightest ripple. At the pancake stall at the school gate, old Uncle Chio was still full of enthusiasm as he served the students early in the morning. As an old man who sold pancakes at number 60 High's school gate all year round, he had most likely heard some rumors about number 60 High. As he passed by, Super Chin bought a pancake and put 5 yuan in the money box next to the old man's cart. "Uncle, keep the money." "Got it, just leave it there." Old Chio nodded and spread a layer of batter on the pancake cart with exceptional proficiency. After spreading it out evenly, he directly cracked 2 eggs on it. Super Chin, Uncle, I only gave you the money for 1 egg, old Chio. It's fine, there's an event today, buy 1 get 1 free. Super Chin. By the way, Uncle, do you know that some criminals claim to be attacking our school today? Old Chio raised his eyebrows. You mean the Demon Hunters Association? Super Chin nodded. That's right. It's that Demon Hunters Association. Uncle, aren't you afraid? You're so close to the school, what if you get involved? Old Chio, what's there to be afraid of? I've been selling pancakes at your school gate for so many years, I've seen all kinds of monsters. Super Chin, this was indeed the truth. Old Chio had been selling pancakes at number 60 high school's gate for many years, and it was said that the seniors from previous years had all seen him. And most importantly, almost everyone at number 60 high school had bought Old Chio's pancakes. Old Lee at the school gate especially loved them. Old Chio, the grass on the grave of that shadow stream, who came to pick a fight with your school a few months ago, is it taller than a person now? Chapter 684. Uncle Chio had been at number 60 high for a long time, which was obvious to everyone at number 60 high. This was an old man who had witnessed the hardships of number 60 high's history. Some people said that the reason number 60 high had been able to survive so many disasters without collapsing was partly because of Uncle Chio. The truth was that there had been a lot of legends about Uncle Chio over the years, at least in number 60 high's Tiaba circle. Many people felt that Uncle Chio was a hidden expert with a mysterious identity. Moreover, there were several times when people saw Uncle Chio making pancakes. He could even crack an egg and create a yin-yang symbol. It was also because of this that legends about Uncle Chio could be said to be endless, and there were all kinds of rumors on the internet. Although Wang Ling hadn't been at school for long, he had eaten Uncle Chio's fruit jianbing before. Furthermore, he felt that it was currently the best thing he had eaten apart from crispy noodle snacks. The main point was that the 5 yuan fruit jianbing was full of ingredients: sweet sauce, chili, eggs, crackers, youtiao, tenderloin, sausages. It had everything. When he arrived at school that morning, he happened to see Super Chen buying fruit jianbing. After thinking for a bit, he also fished out 5 yuan to buy one. Wang Ling. You're also here to buy pancakes? Super Chen greeted him as he nibbled on a freshly baked fruit jianbing. Today, Uncle Chio was holding an event, buy 1, get 1 free. Just like when he had made Super Chen pancakes before, Uncle Chio directly cracked 2 eggs. In the end, 4 egg yolks popped out. These 2 eggs were actually double yolks. Wang Ling, Uncle Chio was shocked, and so was Super Chen. What kind of operation was this? Uncle Chio smiled. This student's luck is quite good. After the bread was served, Uncle Chio asked, Classmate, do you want fried dough sticks or crispy bread? Wang Ling took out a pack of crispy noodle snacks from his pocket, split it in half, and handed it to Uncle Chio. Uncle Chio, today, the morning at number 60 high school was quieter than they had imagined. It had already been a whole night since the Demon Hunters Association's notice of attack broke out yesterday. Last night, number 60 high had sent a lot of teachers out for emergency home visits to carry out all kinds of coordination and pacification work. But even so, there were still some parents who chose to ask for leave for their children and did not come to school. As for how many parents would choose to transfer schools after this incident, that wasn't something he could estimate. In the beginning, Wang Ling had chosen number 60 high for the sake of a peaceful study life. In all aspects, whether it was its geographical location, school history, or overall evaluation results, number 60 high actually looked mediocre compared with other ordinary high schools. But the damnable thing was that what had happened in the first 10 or so weeks of school made number 60 high not seem like an ordinary school at all. Would the Demon Hunters Association's attack proceed smoothly? Wang Ling felt that this was a question mark. Because his eyelid warning had stopped, on the other side, Father Wang was still engaged in a battle with live streamer Singers Institute who had stolen songs, and the fans on both sides had escalated the situation further. In addition to the many fans who supported Father Wang and boycotted live streamers who stole songs, there was also a key figure who had directly caused this war to escalate to a white-hot state. This person was none other than Daoist Guang, who had just entered the live streaming circle as a live streamer in the last few weeks. Daoist Guang was now the #1 all-around big brother on the Cultivation live streaming platform. In just a few short weeks, he had accumulated millions of fans, directly breaking the website's previous history. Now, as long as Daoist Guang started a live stream, his popularity would directly soar to more than 10 million in less than 10 minutes. The reason why Daoist Guang could become so popular was partly due to timing and luck, and partly because he had created this small island himself. Every day, he could think of new ways to live stream material for the audience to live stream non-stop. He could even create fake spirit beasts made of clay on the island to maximize the effect of the program. It was very normal for live streamers to create program effects, but even if they wanted to do so, they had to ensure that they had the ability to do so. In the end, relying on crooked methods wasn't the right way to go. After learning that Father Wang's song had been infringed, Daoist Guang's attitude was very clear. Not only did he change the title of his live stream room, he directly changed it to Wolf Fang Live Streaming Platform, Film Entertainment, Dean, steals songs and lip-sings. He even publicly posted on Weibo about stealing songs and lip-singing. This was the fuse that ignited the whole incident. Internally, Daoist Guang knew that this senior Wang was Ling Jinren's father, so how could he be an ordinary person? Daoist Guang would definitely stand on Father Wang's side without even thinking about it. But there was no way Daoist Guang would explain this to the outside world, so after obtaining Father Wang's permission, Daoist Guang directly announced something to the public. Currently, the person with the ID has 3 days and 2 sleeps been updated today, and who was called Brother Sleep by many water friends in the live stream room was the famous guru author, Wang Situ, himself. When this news came out, it wasn't just the live stream circle, but also the novel circle exploded. Damn, so this person is Wang Situ? My god. Wang Situ is also a fan of Brother Sleep. Hehe, I'm afraid that live streamer is done for. Not only has he offended Wang Situ, he's also offended Lord Island. Wang Situ has given Lord Island so many gifts, their relationship definitely isn't ordinary. Thus, as a live streamer on another platform, Daoist Guang had even more reason to help hammer that live streamer, Singers Institute, for stealing songs. Now, Daoist Guang was the big brother of the Cultivation live stream platform, while Father Wang was a famous internet guru. If these two people joined hands to hammer a live streamer, it was basically a declaration that this live streamer was done for. Lai Mengmeng stared at the screen and sighed. This person is also stubborn. Wouldn't it have been over if he had apologized earlier? Some people won't shed tears until they see the coffin, you don't understand. Father Wang sighed. If you don't believe me, look. Father Wang opened the live streamer's live stream room and saw that the other party was sitting inside as if nothing had happened, completely ignoring the matter of stealing songs and lip-singing. This person is a little bold. Lai Mengmeng was speechless. He's only good at playing dead. This person was the same last year. When he ran into trouble, he played dead and didn't respond. Then after a while, the people hammering him got tired and slowly stopped pursuing the matter. But the problem is that he's never met someone who's stubborn. Father Wang laughed. Daring to steal a song I gave to my wife, I think this guy doesn't want to live anymore. What do you want to do? Lai Mengmeng asked. Chapter 685. Yang Zhong didn't live stream that day, and instead used his illness as an excuse to ask the audience in the live stream room for a day off. However, the moderators in the live stream room didn't ask for a day off. Moderators, Mr. Li, and Zhang Fei, continued to ban people, and in less than 2 days, they had banned more than 10,000 people. basically all of whom were onlookers who had learned about this from Father Wang. It had always been a major characteristic of netizens to join in on the fun. Although the audiences in the novel circle and the live stream circle were different, the users were of similar ages, so this news was very sweet for the onlookers in both circles. Yang Zhong was well aware that he was now in the teeth of the storm, so it was actually very important for him to insist that he hadn't stolen the song and temporarily avoid the limelight. This was what they had done to deal with the crisis last year, and the results had been very good. But this time, Yang Zhong had underestimated the power of Cultivation Chinese Network's veteran guru author, Wang Situ. After Daoist Guang's support last night, Yang Zhong already felt that it would be hard for him to turn things around. "President, what should we do now?" He had no choice but to ask Lang Bei for help. Shadow Fool Guild wasn't a small guild, it had over 100 signed artists, and he was one of them. Yang Zhong had always believed that the president wouldn't give up on him so easily. This year, he had made a lot of money for Shadow Fool by stealing songs and lip-syncing. Furthermore, it was Shadow Fool who had specially signed him after spending hundreds of thousands of yuan in compensation for the accident last year. Yang Zhong had always felt that this guild had feelings for him and wouldn't give up on him so easily. On the other end of the line, Shadow Fool Guild's president Lang Bei no longer sounded as confident as he had at the beginning. This was because the two people they had offended this time both had a huge number of fans, and it would actually be very difficult for them to contend with them if things went on like this. The truth was that before he picked up the phone, President Lang Bei was still weighing the stakes. Shadow Fool Guild wasn't a charity guild, but a live stream guild. With so many people to support, it was all about profit. Last year, Shadow Fool had signed Yang Zhong again despite the criticism, and had even paid a huge sum of money to pay off his former guild's compensation for his commercial value. But now, they were in the teeth of the storm. Every move was much more difficult than last year's. "Don't worry. We've already uploaded the album first. You can take a screenshot and post it on Weibo. First, stabilize your fans. That's the most important thing." President Lang Bei said. "As for Wang Situ, I've already contacted the Cultivation Chinese Network and asked for his contact information. I'll talk to him in detail later. If this matter can be settled privately, both sides can send a message to clarify the situation, and it can be a perfect ending. Compared to last year, you've gained a huge number of fans." "All right. Thank you, President. Guild leader, you must help me this time." Hearing President Lang Bei's words, Yang Zhong was relieved. As long as his backer hadn't abandoned him, there was still room for redemption. On the other side, after the call ended, President Lang Bei, who was sitting in his office, rubbed his eyes and felt a deep headache. "Lord President, are you still not going to give up on him?" asked a secretary dressed in revealing clothes. "It's too early to give up now. He still has some value." President Lang Bei muttered to himself, "Although this matter has blown up and it's basically impossible for us to clean it up, if we can reach a private settlement with that Mr. Wang Situ, that would definitely be the best for us." The secretary in revealing clothes understood. It was all because President Lang Bei felt that Yang Zhong still had some value. This year, Shadow Fool Guild had made a lot of money from Yang Zhong's commercial value. Although the live stream room had been in the teeth of the storm these days, it had also received a lot of gift income. A lot of loyal fans didn't hesitate to spend huge sums of money to send small gifts like crazy in the live stream room in order to cover up the negative and questioning bullet messages. "Then what should we do next?" asked the scantily clad secretary. "It's very simple," President Lang Bei said. "Contact Wang Situ and that Daoist Guang first. Ask them what they think about this matter. If they just want compensation, we can pay it on Yang Zhong's behalf. Of course, if it's a sky-high price, that's another matter. Then should we give up on him? When that time comes, of course we can only give up on him." President Lang Bei said. "Yang Zhong isn't clean to begin with. If it wasn't for the fact that he still has some commercial value, I would have terminated the contract with him long ago. To me, He's just a pawn that can be discarded at any time. Lord President, you really don't give us any face. The secretary in revealing clothes smiled slightly, went straight to President Lang Bei's side, and then sat down on his lap. At that moment, the secretary's cell phone rang. President Lang Bei hugged the secretary. Who's calling? An express delivery. The secretary directly turned on the hands-free function. Then, a voice came through the phone. Is this Mr. Shen? Your express delivery has arrived. The secretary in revealing clothes stood up. All right. I'll go get it right away. Elsewhere, number 60 High was still as calm as ever. It had already been a long time since the Demon Hunters Association's grand plan to attack. But it was almost noon, and there was still no movement from those so-called overseas returnees elites of the Demon Hunters Association. Many number 60 High students started to mock them in their class groups in Tieba. Are they coming or not? If they don't, we're going to have lunch. Seriously, they go back on their word. We've been so nervous for so long. What's wrong with these people? They're worse than Shadow Stream. Back then, when Shadow Stream came, at least they were able to enter the school. Don't tell me this bunch can't even enter the main gate of number 60 High. Wang Ling quietly glanced at the messages in Tieba and the class group, and also looked out the window with a strange expression. The sun was exceptionally bright today, there was no sign of a storm at all. What on earth was going on? He was also puzzled. His eyelid had clearly twitched earlier, but it had suddenly stopped. Could something have happened to the other side? Stop waiting, do what you need to do and eat. Super Chin couldn't help laughing. I heard that Mother One held a food tasting event for the parents at number 60 High a while ago, and it seems that there was only one parent who showed up. He even packed some fried meatballs when he left. Say, if this parent was from the Demon Hunters Association and brought the meatballs back, would that group of people be directly poisoned to death? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.